my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
Hello! Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, everybody from Fnaf's chat? Thanks for the raid. I'm a little loud. There we go. Hey, oh, okay! Alright! That was not what I was expecting. Thank you for exploding everything. Holy shit! Hey! What's up, everybody? Jesus Christ. Sir got a paycheck. Yes, she did. Hello, everybody. Oh my God! Not what I was going for. Oh my God, we're starting off like this, are we? Oh my God, thank you everybody. Appreciate it. Jesus Christ. Stop it! Thank you guys very much, holy shit. Appreciate it, guys. Jesus Christ, thank you. Hello everybody, how's everybody doing today? Jesus. What's up, boys? We got a special treat in store for you today. Thank you everybody for the subs and the bits and the hype train too. Really appreciate it.
Hey, what took you so long?
Let me get this music real quiet for a second. Like barely audible. Alright. I have a cool thing planned for today. Thank you guys so much for the subs. Jesus Christ. Holy shit, we beat the fucking record. I didn't know we were doing that. Okay. Alright, guys. That's not what I was going for, but I appreciate it a lot. Guys! Guys! Holy shit! Relax! Holy fuck!
Hey,
I
what
love
took
you
you
guys.
so long?
Jesus. Alright, thank you guys so much. Holy shit. Where's the sound? You can't hear the sound? Are you serious? You can't hear it? You can't hear the confetti? Can you not hear the confetti? What sound? Is it the no confetti sound? Oh my God, dude. Hold on. Oh my God, dude. What do you mean? You can't hear that? Fucking hell.
Woo book time. Woo.
Fucking properties. Are you serious? Alright, hold on. Hold on. Somebody do it again. I'm not really asking for a sub, I just don't know if it works now. I think I fixed it? I don't know. Did I fix it? I don't know. I think I fixed it. I think I fixed the confetti. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was broken. I don't know why it's doing that. But thank you guys so much. Hold on. Why can't you hear it? What's up with that? I don't know why you can't hear it. I don't know why you can't hear it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. Hold on. Why is Gangsta's Paradise playing? Shut up. It's fucking... you guys broke it. Awesome. I also can't seem to fucking fix it right now, so I guess no confetti, I'm sorry. Can you at least hear that? That one didn't even fucking do anything. Thank you, Jesus Christ, sir. That didn't even fucking do anything. We can hear the VHS? Okay, I mean, at least you can hear that. I don't know what's going on with everything else, I'm sorry. I don't know why that's not working. Hold on. I don't know. I have no idea. Hold on. Somebody throw something at me. This is how we'll test. If you throw something at me, can you hear it? You guys broke the audio, yeah. Give me a second. Let me fucking put on the room. Somebody throw something at me.
Save your fucking canvas.
Okay, you can hear that! You can hear that, right? So why the fuck can't you hear the confetti? I'm so confused. Okay, whatever. It's the best you're gonna get. I don't know if the confetti doesn't work or not. I'll figure it out later. Thank you. You don't have to keep hitting me. It's okay. Alright, well, would you guys like to know what the fuck we're doing today now that we're here?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Together.
Thank you. Would you guys like to know what we're doing today? I'm trying to fucking fix my fucking audio mixer now, because you guys- thank you for continuing to hit me. Appreciate it. No, it's really cool. No, it's awesome. Thanks, guys. No, it's awesome. Thanks. I'm trying to fucking- Okay. Can you hear it? Did we hear it?
Moment.
Did I fix it? Woo! We fixed it! Alright, good stream, everybody! Alright, see you next time. No, I'm just kidding. Alright. Here's the music a little bit. There you go. No, okay, let me explain what we're doing on this stream. It's very special. We're doing a cool stream today. So, if you didn't know, we're actually going to be watching Thaf 9's Fnaf video. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a really lame stream idea. No, it's not. First of all, what did you do to me? Why is that stuck to me? Get it off! Get it off! Why is it there? Get it off! Okay, hold on. Lame. Out. Fuck you, Sam. But we're actually going to be doing it with a small twist. So, Nintendo Switch. We just keep breaking shit. You guys are literally breaking everything I have, and it's really funny, actually. Hold on 1 second. There it is. Okay. Alright. So, what we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna be watching Thaf's Fnaf video, but with a twist. I've got a shit ton of booze next to me. Like a shit ton. I have a whole handle of rum right next to me. And, no, the bottle's already broken, actually. If you look, it freaks out, but don't talk about it, okay? I'm self-conscious. But, I gotta... Thank you, very cool. I have a whole thing of rum next to me. So, if you've watched Thaf's Fnaf video, you might know he makes a specific gag multiple times over the course of the video. It is one of my favorite memes, and I love it. So, we're going to be doing a version of Thaf, we were going to be watching Thaf's Fnaf video. However, every single time this video plays, every single time that video plays, we're going to be taking a shot. I'm going to be very drunk by the end of the stream. Every single time, every single instance, he uses that fucking video, I am taking a shot. Add a redeem that plays that video. We'll do that at the end of the stream so I don't get confused. But not right now. Thank you for the 5 bits. I appreciate it. So, are you all ready? Are we ready? Let's transition into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. If you haven't already, by the way, please make sure you go watch Thaf's video on your own, or just have it playing in the background. It's a great video, and I love it dearly, and I'm very excited. So, every single time the question mark video plays, we will be taking a shot. You guys, why can't I fucking see my mouse? Okay, cool. You guys will have to let me know how, thank you. I forgot about that. Thank you for the hype train, by the way. Jesus Christ, what did we make? Like level 9 by the end of that? That was insane. Alright, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it, man. You guys are awesome. Thank you, really, honestly. But anyway, we will be watching this now. Let me know how audio is, and I will adjust accordingly, okay? Let me know if it's too loud, too quiet, in the middle, whatever. Let me know. I'm actually gonna make myself smaller, I think.
In the past couple of years, I've talked extensively about how jaded I feel about the state of the AAA horror game industry. So much so that I probably sound like a broken record at this point and people can start to predict what I'm about to say. But no matter how much I repeat myself, the sentiment still hasn't changed. A couple of years ago, horror fans ate extremely good with game game studios pumping out horror games as if they were cavemen just to
Bit
spread
quiet.
fire. With games like Alien Isolation, The Evil Within, Until Dawn, and the cancelled Silent Hills playable
Don't use the
teaser
subtitles
among
on
the few
PC,
games
it
that
will
were
lag
released in this time
hard.
period, it seems
Okay.
certain that horror fans would be eating extremely well for years to come.
How's the audio,
However,
chat?
fast forward a couple of years, and it seems like the only horror franchise that's still consistently doing well in the grand scheme of things is Resident Evil, with a very well-received remake and 2 decent mainline sequels spawning from the franchise. It really should be incredibly easy to push out horror games nowadays, since there's so many ideas out there and so many ways you can scare potential audience for several hours at a time. And it's because of this that horror fans have moved on to greener pastures. Those greener pastures being the indie horror game community. Developers of indie horror games
Where
don't really have
subtitles?
to worry about
It
trying
lags
to
on
appease
PC.
corporate overlords, and this freedom allows them to make whatever type of game they
But
want.
I can try it.
Which is incredible because all they seem to do is make the 1500th PT clone. In the midst of all of this, there's a franchise that stayed in the public eye for almost a decade and is up there with the biggest names in horror like Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers and Chris Redfield. It's a franchise that started
I love
from
this
one
video.
small game that can be completed in less than an hour and has ballooned since then into a massive convoluted library of content that's captured the hearts and minds of many horror fans on the internet. The franchise in question is Five Nights at Freddy's. Hang on a second. Didn't you cover this before? I hear you exclaim from the comfort of your own home. And the answer to that question is yes, I did. In 2019, I dropped a video on my channel talking about Five Nights at Freddy's and the effects it had on the independent horror game community from an outsider standpoint at the time. I only really covered the first 4
This
games
is such
in
a
the
good
series,
video,
as I felt
honestly.
that those
Like, I don't
one-time
have much
gameplay mechanics
commentary
they
to add,
provided
but I'm gonna
laid
get
a lot of
fucking so
groundwork for
drunk.
indie horror games to copy in the years moving forward. However, as you'll soon find out, the franchise is so much bigger than that, and that video only really covered a small fraction of it. So if you still want to watch that video, even though I do find it outdated, it will be linked in the description and will show up around here. But I think it's time to delve a little deeper into the franchise as a whole and talk about what's good about it, what's bad about it, and what's really, really ugly about it. Five Nights at Freddy's is a franchise that everyone even remotely into horror games probably knows about, and if they don't know about it, they're probably lying.
All right, before we continue, who in this chat has never heard of Five Nights at Freddy's? Is there a single fucking person? I gotta know. Also, have a good one, Yellow. I gotta know. Does anybody not know what Five Nights at Freddy's is? Because that's gonna get real fucking weird real fast. Fuck off, Pricey.
Similar to Corpse Party, it's also a franchise that I hold very close to my heart for a variety of reasons. After several years of dealing with Slender clones where the only difference between any of the games was the 3D model that's
Who's
used
Freddy?
to change the player character and the items that are supposed to be collected, Five Nights at Freddy's provided something entirely different for budding indie horror game developers for better and for worse in the long term. Starting around 8 years
Tiberius.
ago with just the original game created by Scott Cawthon, Fnaf has blossomed into a massive multimedia franchise way bigger than a lot of horror properties could dream of, including 13 games, 31 books, a ton of merch, a live-action movie in development, and even a horror attraction of its own. Yes, I did not make this up. There was an actual Five Nights at Freddy's related horror attraction that was open for some time before getting shut down.
It's
a
crazy
couple of
to
years
think
ago.
how much
But
of
how,
shit
I hear
there
you wonder.
is.
Yes,
Like,
I heard
there's
your thoughts.
so
How
much
could a
shit.
game that looks like this spawn a franchise that looks like
There's
this?
so much
Well, in this
shit.
video, we're going to dive right into the deep end and swim with the sharks, but not before covering ourselves in blood and then diving into the shark-infested pool, because I'm going to be covering the entirety of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise up until the latest game in the mainline series. This will be no easy task as there are a ton of games and content I'm going to cover, and yet
Yeah, now we
again,
have
I'm
a release
subjecting
date.
myself to a couple of millennia at my desk in the editing room. But at least the wait between the last video and this one is justified, right? Right, guys? Anyways, in order to measure the impact of the Five
No
Nights at
comment,
Freddy's
Dan.
franchise and how it developed over time, we must first go back to the very beginning.
Oh my god, Emma. Her eyebrows? Emma, her eyebrows freaked you out? That's really funny.
The year is 2013. Vine takes the entire world by storm with its short-form content format and single-handedly damages race relations for a couple of years. Google manages to revive cyberbullying by releasing the Google Glass to a grand audience of 2 people. Microsoft released their brand new television machine, I mean the Xbox One, and Margaret Thatcher. In the midst of this chaotic year, a man who went by the name of Scott Cawthon would release a game that he didn't even know would be the cause of this monolith of content. Fresh off
That's
the
true.
press from games such as The Desolate Hope, among others, he was about to release a video game that would destroy the competition and become the basis of many a clone and establish a brand new subgenre of video games. The game is so massive that it really
Does it
doesn't
really,
need any
Tiberius?
introduction. And that game is Five Nights at Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Okay. So I bet all of you are wondering, what the hell is this?
Okay, alright, it happened. There it is. There's the first one. Alright, we're 5 minutes in. First shot down the hatch, baby. Let's go. Hey, what's up, Boop? Love you, buddy. Congrats on getting a sub from, I don't know who the fuck gave it to you. There were a lot of subs gifted. Anyway, boys, if you're drinking along with me, cheers. Number 1. Woo! Straight rum out the bottle, tastes like ass. Woo! Okay.
True introduction into the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise.
If you're new here, hold on, I'll replay them. We're not taking another shot for it, but I'll replay it. Ooh. If if you'd like to join me, or if you're new here, and just came in, we are taking a shot every time this video plays. Ready?
So I bet
this question mark video, watch.
What the hell is this? Well,
every time that question mark video plays, we're fucking taking a shot. So we've just taken the first one and we're only 5 minutes in and this is a 3-hour video.
This is the true introduction into the Freddy's franchise. Technically, after a string of efforts in the animation and game design industry, mainly in the field of Christianity, Scott developed several new games and attempted to submit some of them to Steam Greenlight. Yes, you used to actually have to submit games to Steam Greenlight.
Yeah, somebody keep a drink counter.
Steam. Nowadays, this notion is completely unheard of, considering the amount of content that's released on Steam on a daily basis with varying degrees of quality. But back then, getting your game on Steam was a complete and utter nightmare. Because of the sheer amount of games being released and Valve's fear of having a storefront full of awful cash grabs that are put on the service for a quick buck, the greenlight process was made. And the way it worked was, game developers had to first cough up $100 from their savings to even have their game added to the greenlight list with no guarantee that the game would even be added onto Steam. So you're essentially gambling. Once you've scrounged up enough money to have your game listed, you're then at the mercy of the most ruthless and dastardly demons that roam this earth. Gamers! The Steam user base would then vote on which games they wanted on the platform, and the top pledged games would then be made available on Steam. This was a fairly long and daunting process for a lot of developers, because you'll notice a lot of independent games released before 2015 had trailers or gameplay videos all begging fans of the game to vote for it on Steam Greenlight to increase its chances of getting onto Steam. Now that you've got some context as to how games used to be added onto Steam, think about how many developers placed their game onto Steam Greenlight hoping for a massive audience that would enjoy their game for years to come. Only to get 0 pledges. A moment of silence for them. Moving swiftly on! So how does this relate back to Scott? Well, he went through this process. A lot. So much so to the point that he almost quit developing games entirely, but we're getting a little too ahead of ourselves here.
This is gonna be fun.
Previous games such as The Desolate Hope were able to get through that process,
by the way,
Chipper & Sons Lumber Corporation was unable to. I wonder why.
How's the volume, by the way? Everything okay? Volume okay?
2013, and you can probably already see the similarities to Fnaf just from the game art alone. Upon opening the game for the first time, you'll be greeted with a simple menu along with a seemingly innocent beaver who's ready to welcome you to the dark depths of hell. His name is Tyke, and he's the and sons of Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Judging by the menu music though, this company is definitely more suited for infomercials about having an accident in the workplace and looking for compensation.
Have you had an accident at work and it wasn't your fault?
You want to also take a shot for every KSI reaction? I don't want to die,
When you start a new game, you get thrown right into the world of Chipper & Sons and meet Chipper, who's your dad, and he's about to throw you out of the house to do some hard manual labor. He claims that by the time he was Tyke's age, he was out doing hard tasks such as building dams, cutting trees, and blowing up termite mounds. Wait, what? Run that by me again? Blowing up termite mounds! The war with the termites has scarred us all. Famine, disease, death. Did I download the right game? I thought this was a child-friendly adventure game. Oh, he was just kidding. What a trickster. I thought he was actually about to induct us into a beaver terrorist organization. Also, why does it look like you're about to bite Tyke's head off? Are you okay, Chipper? Your hair looks like Play-Doh. Sort it out. After he tells you what you're supposed to do, you get given an acre of land and some plans. What kind of plans? I don't know, you'll figure it out. And then you get thrown right into the game. Oh my god, my eyes! There's so much stuff going on! Where's the depth? What do these buttons mean? Okay, maybe I'm overreacting, but this first menu is definitely not nice on your eyes. The butterflies, the flowers everywhere, and the fact that Chipper is completely motionless while you're hyperventilating on the job.
I never noticed it with a moai.
Game from the start. And we must have an infinite water supply from somewhere, or Tyke's just wasting the water. What are you doing? Anyways, let's start moving.
Thank you for the pets, guys.
Okay, let's not start moving. Let's look at the UI, shall we? If it wasn't made completely obvious already, graphics design was and clearly is Scott's passion, as you get 3 buttons on the top left corner: your bag, your plans, and your tasks. Clicking on each of them shows the respective window, and we've just been given an introductory task to start off our adventure, judging by the urgent flashing on the task button. Why don't you try finding a tree and chomping it down? Sounds easy enough. So how do we move? Oh, we click on the arrow buttons on the screen. Look at him go. Now, if it wasn't made obvious before, you'll probably notice by now that
Chipper
this
Son's
was
just such a
originally
weird
mobile
game.
Scott developed this game for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone in 2013, and now the really glossy, bright, and obnoxious buttons make a whole lot more sense. You couldn't ship a mobile game without giving people sensory overload. It's 2013, man. Back to the
So
game,
true.
and we go over to the next screen and encounter a wood monster. A woodster? A weed? Deadwood?
Fun fact about the weed part, by the way, if you didn't know, that originally actually had an image of a fucking nugget of weed over that, but I told him he might want to take it out because of YouTube monetization, because I was like, you might get dinged for that, because it was like a huge fucking just nugget of pot, and it was really funny, but like, YouTube monetization.
No. And this is never really explained, but all you really have to do is move near to it and it will eventually shrink into nothing and give you an item. But now we gotta actually get chomping on these PNGs of wood by clicking on the axe and... Tyke that tree had a family. After completely demolishing the tree, you're then given a choice to build a new one or build something from the many plans you'll be given in the game by Chipper or any of the other characters, which I'll get to in a moment. Once you've collected the wood from the tree you murdered, you have to go back to Chipper, who will make lumber for you.
That is
which
true,
you can use
Tiberius,
to
he
build
is.
things on the areas of land which you're given. Continuing over to the left, and Tyke eventually finds himself in the den of the termites, the very things that Chipper joked about massacring. And now you're talking with one of them. The termite talks to Tyke for a bit, and in the cutscene you found out that
the
Chipper
termite is
actually wasn't joking about
is
bombing the
drinking.
termites and causing war crimes, because he dropped a bomb right in the middle and killed a bunch of kids. What am I playing? After he sends you off on your way, you can continue over to the left to get captured by some birds who ask you for a trade like you're on the Steam marketplace. Obviously, you have nothing, so they send you right back down to continue traveling. On your journey, you'll meet various characters who'll talk about their run-ins with Chipper or something random, and they'll give you items that'll help you on your journey. And can I just mention that the music during these segments is a bit of a vibe. If you keep running to the left, you'll eventually
It is
find
a
this
vibe,
pleasant area
honestly.
and the music completely stops. This area is called the Robot Graveyard, and for a lot of people, this area has a lot of foreshadowing for Scott's future games, which I'll get into later.
God.
It's here where you'll get
It's
to
actually
remind you
kind
that
of
this
creepy.
is a mobile game, as you're given a screen full of daily deals that you can purchase either by playing the game or straight up buying them from the store. After you've explored everything, that's it. Good luck. For the rest of the game, your job is to just run around the areas you've been given, chomping down trees and planting new ones, and sometimes building different structures based on the plans that Chipper gives you throughout the game. There are several different locations you can find yourself in, and several characters you can talk to. And in some cases, you even get a small mini game where upon pressing the button, you get greeted in a black void by the character and start the game. These mini games seem to be a parody of those really old games people used to get in McDonald's Happy Meals, in which the game in question runs at 2 seconds per frame and rely
God,
on
I
your
love
hand-eye
this
coordination
grid.
to get enough points to receive a free item. And you also get infinite tries as well, so you're not locked out if you fail. What I do find crazy though is that the mini games actually allow you to use your arrow keys to control the item in question. So why can't we control the literal main protagonist of the game? In random intervals while playing, you're also given random events such as free termite coins, which you can use to buy several upgrades to make the game go faster. Or weather events such as heavy rain, which will make trees grow faster, allowing you to collect more wood for Chipper to
Leave
convert.
it to
And
Fnaf
that's
for
pretty
the
much all
dumbest
she wrote.
shit.
Once you collect enough beaver points from
I
building
love it,
structures
though.
like the lumber bots who will farm the
Jason!
wood for you while AFK, you'll start another cutscene with Chipper congratulating you on a job well done, and then going on another tirade against the termites. Chipper will then set you up on a date without your knowledge, eh? Aren't we literally a child? Is Chipper trying to set his child up for a shotgun wedding? Is he that desperate to continue the bloodline? Calm down, Chris. So later that night, you get set up with a completely different species who tries to initiate the date with you with amazing lines such as, "You can
Oh
tell
no,
I'm
here we
female
go.
because I have a bow on my head." What do you mean by that? Boys can wear girls' clothing.
I want to die every time I see this bit.
It becomes increasingly apparent that this game is supposed to be a massive time sink, it being a mobile game and all. Every time you get enough beaver points, Chipper will increase the land made available to you.
I hate that I made that. I hate that my hands made that.
These bots will work while you're away and will automatically farm wood for you so you don't have to
You know,
game.
thank you for the
However,
follow.
version
You
you're
know,
seeing
maybe
right
that
now is the
shouldn't have
PC
3D
edition
models.
of the
So
game,
true.
which was released in 2015. And if I sunk enough time to do absolutely everything in the game, this video
You made that? Yeah, I make all of Fnaf's 3D models.
When Chipper and Sons was released to the general public, the reception wasn't really that great, and I can tell you exactly why. The character designs look terrifying. For a child-friendly farming game, many critics pointed to the uncanny nature of the titular character and some of the supporting casts, likening them to animatronics. And judging by the footage that you've all seen, I think they may have a good point. All of the characters look like creepy animatronics, and you can see it in the stiff movement.
No, I didn't, sir. I still have
each
it.
and every one of
So
the
does
characters, and the way in which they interact with each other. This wasn't the makings of a child-friendly franchise. The heavy criticism of Chipper and Son sent Scott into a
So
depressive
true,
slump,
Pricey.
almost discouraging him from making games entirely due to how many prominent reviewers trashed on the game. And then he had an epiphany. People ripped into him for accidentally making creepy designs in a child-friendly game. So what if he went and intentionally made creepy designs in a game that's definitely not made for kids? And that's exactly what he did when he made...
I'm scared. I know there's a lot of question marks in this video. I just don't remember where they
Five
are,
Nights
and
at
I'm
Freddy's
scared.
was released on August 8th, 2014, and this is the game that truly started it all. Scott
so
took the
scared.
verbal and critical hits that he got from Chipper and Sons and used the criticism to make an intentionally scary horror game with the knowledge he already knew. Whether or not he did a good job at the end of the day is what I want to delve into by the end of this video. Now, as I said before, I already covered the first 4 Five Nights at Freddy's games when I made my last video back in 2019. So going through the same things might seem incredibly repetitive.
Is this a
But I
Fnaf
think
Not
it
Drinking
recaps in
stream?
order. This
Yes.
game basically served as the blueprint for many sequels and clones. And
Every
the
time
premise
the
is
question
relatively
mark video
simple.
plays,
You
I
are
take a
security
shot.
guard that's been hired on the night shift, and you are forced to maintain the entirety of a pizzeria that runs on a singular AAA second-hand Duracell battery. Upon loading the game, you're instantly thrown into things. There's no how to play section. The game expects you to get good immediately at maintaining 4 animatronics in the rooms at the back and making sure nothing
There she
happens
is,
to
the
them.
fucking
The only
goofy-ass
tutorial you're
chica.
given is a recorded voice message on the phone, voiced by Scott himself, telling you that everything is okay and there's absolutely nothing to worry about. As you listen to the phone call, the guy on the phone, who was appropriately named Phone Guy, tells you that the animatronics like to get a little quirky in the night. Make of that what you will, but Phone Guy reassures you that there's nothing to worry about and you should just let the animatronics wander around the pizzeria as freely as they need to. However, since this is a horror game, of course there has to be a twist in the tale. If any of the animatronics see you, they won't recognize you at all. They'll think you're one of them. If they find you, they'll try and stuff you in a suit, judging by what's shown on the game over screen. That doesn't seem too bad until you realize that the eyes on that screen are yours. So it's in your best interest to make sure that doesn't happen. From then on, your objective becomes clear. Stop the animatronics from entering the room that you're in. You have until your shift ends at 6 AM to chill in your office and make sure this doesn't happen.
Obviously.
But don't worry, you've been given a plethora of items to prevent yourself from an
definitely,
unpleasant termination of your services on a permanent level. A gun? No, don't be silly. Security guards don't need guns this current year. No, you're using the greatest weapon of all time. Your brain. The office that you're staying in seems to be yoinked straight out of the year 2002. As the backdrop is very
I love that.
eerie, with
that
several
cut.
things on
That's
the
so
desk
good.
that play into the creepy atmosphere you're thrown into starting from the first night. And that's the litter on the desk. Jesus Christ, we can't deal with that at all.
Fucking
There's cobwebs
XQC desk.
everywhere. Why are we here even? On the desk, there are several monitors that you're supposed to use to look at all of
Never
the animatronics
forget
standing safely on the show stage.
that
And it's
that's
at
just
this
a
point where I
PNG,
should
by
probably
the
talk
way.
about the animatronics
Never forget
because
that.
that's literally the main draw of the game and the reason why you're doing what you're doing.
The
Scott
Office
made
is
it
just a
clear that
PNG.
these designs would be intentionally scary as opposed to the accidental scares and cardiac arrests he racked up in Chipper and Sons. And I honestly think he succeeded. These animatronics play into the unsettling nature of actual real-life animatronics and mascots in American restaurant lines such as Chuck E. Cheese and many more. Normally, these mascots
Old
are
Chuck E.
supposed to provide
Cheese.
fun and comfort to children dining in the restaurant. But in Five Nights at Freddy's, the creep factor's cranked up to 12. Now, if you don't know the main 4 animatronics in the franchise by now, your boulder probably looks really, really nice. I'd like to hide under it as well. But for those of you who are watching for the first time, I'll outline them all for you. Again, there's Bunny. He's a purple bunny with an antique Burswood guitar. He's very aggressive, likes to mess
Valorant
with the
player,
and
so
lots of
true.
visual and audio hallucinations throughout the night. Comes in from the left-hand side and is constantly at the door to ask about your office's extended warranty. There's Chica, a yellow chicken, not a duck. This should have been obvious from the name, but people thought she was a duck. Stop it. She comes in from the right-hand side and has
Did anybody think that Chica was a fucking duck in this chat? Did any of you think that Chica was a fucking duck? Not me. Oh, thank God. I'm scared that somebody's gonna say yes. I'm terrified. I don't think so. God, could you imagine thinking it's a fucking duck?
a cupcake permanently welded to her hand. There's
Boop! Everybody point and laugh at Boop right now. Boop, what the fuck do you mean you thought she was a duck? What do you mean she's a chicken? Her name is Chica! Boop, what do you mean? I love you. You're so stupid. Look at the beak. I know, you fucking chicken! I was more concerned the cupcake was alive. True.
And finally, Freddy Fazbear, the only animatronic that has a surname to let you know that he's not on first name basis with you. You call him Mr. Fazbear. You can also click on his nose on the poster in the office for a funny little sound effect that's become a franchise staple. He's the main antagonist of the first game, which is wild to me because
wait, Clover also thought it was that Chica was a duck. Point and laugh.
The core gameplay mechanics. On either side of the office are a set of doors. I mean, it does give you 2 ways out, but it also means that there are 2 ways for the animatronics to enter the office. But again, do not worry, the animatronics are pre-programmed to only go in one set path. The only problem is set paths are all around the pizzeria and it's your job to prevent them from getting to you. When you look in the main monitor you're given, you have a bunch of CCTV feeds you have to look at and locate the animatronics within them. At some point, either Chica or Bonnie will attempt to enter your office accompanied by a somewhat loud scare call. Instead of getting up from your current location and decking them to the ground, you're simply asked to
was that Shia? Yes,
the
it
doors
was.
in their faces as fast as you can.
It was
Failure to
Shia.
do so will result in them jamming the doors. And if you check
Am I
the
loud
monitors
enough,
at
by the
any
way? Can you
point
guys
while they're
hear me if
outside
I'm
the
talking
office,
over
you
the
will
video?
hear the sound of that old man from Happy Wheels, but slowed down. Upon closing the monitor, you'll then get... You're probably thinking to yourself, this must be easy as hell then. Just keep the doors closed the entire time, right? Wrong. Because there has to be a handicap in the game to prevent you from beating the game easily, there's a power counter on the bottom left, and the more you use things in the office such as the lights, the doors, or even the cameras, the faster your power goes down. I didn't know this pizzeria was manufactured by Samsung. If the power runs out, you better hope you're right at the end of your shift, or else Freddy himself will show up accompanied by the most iconic jingle in the entire franchise.
Alright, everybody, jam out with me. You ready? Hey, I was listening to that.
It's so dark. I wonder if a jump scare is gonna happen. As each night progresses, all of the animatronics start to get a little more aggressive, and the guy on the phone continues to give you advice about how to survive the night, all the way up until night 4, where he forgets to buy a top-up card and his credit runs out. Somehow he returns the very next night and is taking up Mongolian throat singing as a hobby.
Was this ever deciphered? Does anybody know what that says, actually?
Each night gets progressively harder as the hours keep ticking down, and since this game is called 5 Nights at Freddy's, you have to do this a total of 7 times. But nothing to fear, if you manage to survive until the end of night 5, you win!
Good subtitle.
Yes! Oh my god! For all the
Thank you, Sam.
you've been
Very
through,
cool.
You're probably expected to be given a lot of compensation for the damage to your mental health that's been dealt. And you're given a grand total of $120. Well, I guess you gotta work some overtime then. If you're masochistic enough to go for yet another night, the 6th night exists.
Pokey salary, so
and
true.
After going through several attempts trying to beat the 6th night, you get commended for being a valuable employee to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria with an extra 50 cents.
Woo!
Thanks, boss. I really appreciate it. But now you've unlocked a 7th custom night where you can configure the animatronics to be as easy or as difficult as you like. Some people decide to punish themselves even further by doing the hardest possible mode in the game, named 420 or 2020 mode. This makes the animatronics disgustingly difficult to
No way,
defeat.
you can't
Since
get that
there's several
much.
videos documenting the exact mathematics behind the game's code, nowadays this challenge is relatively easy as people now have a better understanding as to how the game works, which is a point I'll get to later. When you're playing these difficult modes, it becomes apparent that the game is also a massive micromanaging simulator similar to Chipper and Sons, because of the amount of things you need to keep tabs on throughout, to the point that the security guard is definitely getting good exercise and reflex practice
This is a
looking
good
down and up
video.
from the monitor and shutting the doors. This gets much worse as the series continues, but again, I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself. Now
Oh my
you've
God,
completely
Emma.
finished the game, however, the management have no use for you, and you get fired for being a sweaty gamer. The end. I felt it prudent to talk about the mechanics of the game because this context is important before
drinking.
explaining why the game was so scary at the time of release. In 2014, Five Nights at Freddy's provided something different to the horror game community.
I remember that
As a
cover.
genre, there are a lot of different things that can scare the player, but most games that were released in this time period all had one constant about them, and that was the fact that there was a way to escape the predicament you've landed yourself in. In indie games like Slender and SCP Containment Breach, you're given the option to escape by either collecting pages or collecting keycards while avoiding monsters, and the monsters in question could easily be evaded even if you were defenseless. If you saw a creepy thing at the end of the hallway, you'd turn 360 degrees and moonwalk out of the room. Five Nights at Freddy's, on the other hand, took things one step further, and not only were you completely defenseless for the entirety
Good job,
of the game's
Mentor.
runtime, but you also had no way of evading your fate. The game worked in such a way that you were only delaying the inevitable. You couldn't run out of the office with a blicky and a knuckle duster and take the animatronics head on, and this is due to the way that the game was programmed. Fnaf was made using the Click Team Fusion engine, and as such is a point-and-click horror game where you're stationary in one spot and have to prevent yourself from getting jump scared. And that's it. Your only weapon at your disposal is your reflexes, especially on later nights. On launch, the animatronics
That's
were
me.
seemingly unpredictable in nature. There were no tutorials that showed up on screen
fucking
during
getting
the
it
game
wrong.
warning you where Bonnie or Chica would come from. Phone Guy is the only way to learn how the game works at launch.
Thank you for
Nowadays,
Metal
you
Pipe
have
following sound
Wikipedia
effect.
and a plethora of videos made by YouTubers explaining almost exactly how the game works down to the odds in which the characters will show up at the door, and exactly what you need to do to survive each night. Back then though, all you had was the voicemails left for you. The animatronics were seemingly unpredictable, teleporting around the place, getting closer and closer
Yeah,
to the
that's
office
true,
until you're
Tiberius.
forced to shut the doors. And even then, shutting the doors doesn't save you because there are some instances in which animatronics can get into your office, but the odds are incredibly low. So low, in fact, that I forgot to mention that this game has a story. There's a hidden animatronic in the game that's basically Freddy Fazbear, but piss-colored, and he has no eyes, named Golden Freddy. Looking into a specific camera enough times will trigger an event in which a poster will change into a picture of Golden Freddy. And upon closing the monitor, you only have a few seconds to open it back because Golden Freddy is in the room. If you don't do that, you get jump scared and your game crashes. This is one of many random events that Scott coded into the game to play into the creepy atmosphere. In my
I remember
opinion, I honestly
when
think
people
this
first
first
found
game is the
Golden
best
Freddy.
in the franchise in terms
It was
of scares
really
and what's
interesting.
provided in the grand scheme of things. I've talked about this in countless videos, but I think the best way to execute horror concepts is not over-explaining things. The moment you start overcomplicating your
Piss Freddy,
concept with
true.
convoluted lore or over-explanations for things is the moment things stop getting creepy, in my opinion. The scariest possible thing to anyone is their own imagination, so leaving things up for interpretation is always the best way to execute horror concepts. And that's what the first game did so well. The only story beats that were given to anyone
Oh,
else
hell
was all in
nah.
the ambience and the voicemails left
Freddy
by
got
Phone
hit by the
mentioning things like
Girardi.
Goodbye 77, another big franchise staple. Not to mention the grungy aesthetic of the pizzeria and the claustrophobia that came with being in what was essentially a cramped office space. It just worked back then. The animatronics designs also lended themselves to creepy visuals and ambience and forced players to start questioning just why are all the animatronics so quirky at night? Why are they after the player? Why do the
Where did you
animatronics
get
sound like
that
they're being
video,
possessed
Beth?
when they sneak in the office? Why does the term "it's me" show up randomly and rarely
It's
in
not
the
the
hallways
question
and
mark
pirate
video.
crew
I
that
know
will
there are
various
question marks.
hallucinations
Don't
around
make
the
me
games?
drink.
The deal with airline food. If you expect the unexpected, doesn't that make the unexpected expected? These type of questions gave away to a lot of theories about what the secrets behind the
Alright,
pizzeria.
chat, hold on. Speaking of weird questions, I have an important question. Would you have unlimited bacon, but no games? Or unlimited games? Unlimited games, but no games. What would you rather have? Has anyone ever been far even as decided to go want to look more like as well? You know, I mean, just... Alright, yeah, keep going.
We are, for better and for worse. The game was also ambiguous enough to give small hints to the answers to some of these questions with some hidden Easter eggs and rare screens, including one that...
Guys. The question is, would you rather have unlimited bacon but no games? Or unlimited games but no games? Both are just no games, you dumbass.
Shows up in the custom night. Curious individuals would probably try to set the difficulty sliders on each of the animatronics to 1987 as a callback to the byte of 87 that Phone Guy mentions earlier in the game. You probably thought you're the smartest person in the world for figuring out a way to swindle the game into giving you more information, and the game rewards you as such. Another thing that adds to the major scare factor of the first game is the sound design. There's something eerie about being stuck in an office all night with the only sound being the electronics in the room and the hollow rumbling of the animatronics either getting closer or your own hallucinations playing tricks.
I love you too, Deku.
Further into the music cues and the ambience of the first game alone, but there's a video that goes into a lot of detail about this, and I'll put it in the description and it will show up in the top right corner of the screen again. The point I'm trying to make before moving on to the rest of the franchise is that the scare factor in the first game was the perfect storm for what would arrive in the future. And I've gone this long without mentioning what is arguably one of the biggest franchise staples and the second thing that people discuss surrounding Five Nights at Freddy's. And that's the jump scares. Now, jump scares are not scary. It's the horror equivalent of tickling someone and telling them you made them laugh. No, stop it! In the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, the jump scares, while obnoxious, also heighten the tension throughout the game.
I don't know where the next question mark video.
You being a bad gamer. Or being screwed by RNG. As such, a lot of the tension in the game stems from you as a player preventing yourself from getting jump scared. It's the cheap way of increasing tension, but in the likely case that you're a god gamer and never get jump scared once, then the
not telling you that
there as what is essentially a backup source of paranoia for you.
There's a lot in this.
The more you play the game, the less scary the jump scares become, and they would turn into a source of frustration instead, especially in the harder difficulties such as 2020 mode, where getting jump scared goes from to
Foxy's out, which is dumb.
God.
Oh God, no! Fuck me!
as opposed to other horror games and even
Deku, we should go rewatch those again at some point.
Randomly sprinkled in the game as bait, getting jump scared in the original Fnaf game is entirely your fault. And if you strip the concept of the game to the bare minimum, I guess you can say it's a jump scare simulator in which you prevent yourself from guessing the jump scares. When FNAF was released to the general public, it pretty much became an overnight sensation and saved Scott's career. I'm going to sneeze.
God.
Hang on. All of the aspects of the game design I mentioned so far, as well as the fact that it provided something new to the indie horror game and even the general horror game community, caused it to really skyrocket in popularity. The popularity of the franchise can also be credited to YouTubers making videos playing through the game, with Markiplier being a massive catalyst for the success of the game. His first episode of Five Nights at Freddy's now sits at a comfortable 100 million views as of writing this video.
Okay, hold on. 106 million. I'm gonna check it right now. Hold on, YouTube. I'm gonna check it right now. Markiplier FNAF. Hold on, let's see what it sits at right now. It is ever since the video recording and editing and going up, it has gone up another 3 million views. It is at 109 million views right now.
Which is insane for a regular gaming video, let alone a horror let's play. While it was incredibly influential, the game did not have any replay value once all the secrets had been found, and interest in the game would wane as soon as people move on to the next big thing. But Scott had other plans, as just a few months later, he came back with...
Okay, so we went through a whole chapter with no question marks, boys. But I know there's a lot in this video.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was released on November 11th, 2014, off the presses of the first game. Scott was not going to let the cultural zeitgeist that was Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria leave everyone's minds that quickly, so off he went to make the next game, teasing FNAF fans with a promo image just 1 month after the release of the first game. Obviously, with the success of FNAF 1, he was going to have to move into the field of agriculture with the amount of milking and beating he was about to do. When you load into FNAF 2 for the first time, instead of what you'd assume to be the main menu, you get greeted with an introductory cutscene showing a room full of people excited about a new Bendy game, and moving your mouse to the left and to the right shows Bonnie and Chica on either side of the room, just standing there. menacingly. After a couple of seconds,
Funny
the game
JoJo
glitches
joke.
out and stutters before throwing you right into the main menu. And it's at this point where you'll immediately realize that this game really ups the ante from the first game. It's as if this game is the first game, but on crack. There are 3 characters in the menu, for God's sake. This game is absolutely loaded. Before you start questioning your life decisions and what led you to this moment, you're off on your first night once again. It's not 1, it's 12 a.m. in the morning. And immediately there are lots of differences between the first game and this one. And the first one is the fact that the office is much bigger than before. Looks like the Freddy Fazbear Building Association got a pay raise because the office definitely seems more spacious than before. But again, since this is a horror game, there has to be a catch. And the most immediate catch is that there are absolutely no doors and a wide open hallway that any animatronic can sprint down.
That threw me
And
back
2
inside the back
vents
room
on
just
either
now.
side. Okay, we need to seriously be investigating the architects behind each of these locations.
12 a.m. in the
Why are there
Fazbear
so
house.
many possible ways for the security guard to get killed? But there's no time to worry about all of that because you're instantly greeted with a pleasant surprise. Phone guy manages
Hey,
to
what's
buy
up?
a pay-as-you-go add-on,
What's
and
up,
he's
Sabrina?
returned to give you advice and welcome you to the
new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
The phone guy also mentions
So
a lot
true,
of things
Sam.
about the old location, such as the fact that it was left to rot quite a while and there are lots of rumors circulating about just how safe it would be there. Which, if you played the first game, would be extremely valid and would hint at this being set as a sequel, right? Right? When you look at the monitors for the very first time, you'll notice that the animatronics look a little new. They've been infected with the iOS 6 syndrome, where the big trend was to make everything glossy and polished, while the older animatronics have been left to rot and look absolutely grotesque. You'll also notice a couple of extra things in the CCTV that didn't exist in the first game, such as the fact that you can shine a light into every room to at least see where the potential enemies could appear, and a brand new game mechanic, the music box. In simple terms, the music box is there to give you more stress throughout the night, as it's constantly ticking down every single night, and it won't stop ticking down unless you wind it remotely. Failure to wind up the music box results in an automatic death. So if you want a clarification as to just how screwed you are, not only do you have to watch a plethora of animatronics in a security camera, you also have to listen for several audio cues throughout the night. You need to shine a flashlight down an empty hallway toward a Foxy who makes a return in this game. You need to shine a light into the 2 vents on either side of you just in case any animatronic tries something sneaky. And there's another new game mechanic that's supposed to keep you on your feet so you don't have your life contract terminated post-haste. The mask.
I didn't like
if
that
any
FNAF
animatronic
2,
is remotely
actually.
near your room, you have to put it on and it will fool every animatronic into thinking you're one of them. Except Foxy, who will still come down the corridor. And you still need to make sure the puppet is wound up or it's an
Get
instant
flat.
death. Remember how I mentioned the micromanaging you have to do in the first game becomes so much worse as the franchise continues? Well, this game takes that concept and cranks it up to 15, as instead of just 4 animatronics you have to keep tabs on, you have 10. Since Scott was feeling nice, however, he decided to have some of the animatronics warm the bench and put them out of action some of the night so that the game doesn't bombard you with constant jump scares every time you play.
Weird.
I'll get to the jump scares a little later, but I think it's probably time to address the big elephant in the room and talk about some of the questionable design.
Cheers, boys. Ah, damn it. Oh god, that's rough. Oh, it's rough. It gets worse from here. I know.
Design decisions for some of the animatronics this time around. Now, this is a comment on internet culture more than anything, but I think Fnaf 2's scare factor in the animatronics alone is significantly smaller than that of the first game. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the game does tension really, really well and balances things with the more withered version of the animatronics seen in the first game. But the new toy animatronics were not really that scary.
You need to leave! I love that.
Uncanny valley aesthetic to the animatronics. It was something Scott played into perfectly because the grunginess and the 1,000-yard stares that each of the animatronics had really sold the creepy factor when the going started to get tough. In the second game, however, the puppet was really creepy and maybe Mangle. But as for the originals, well, whether or not it was intentional or not, we'll never really know. But I'm 99% sure someone slipped aphrodisiac in Scott's holy water, because the way he described these animatronics in the first 2 games certainly was a little suspicious.
Now that being said, no new system is without its kink. animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night.
Maybe Toy Chica taking her beak off was supposed to be a little
7
creepy
TV?
originally, but look at those proportions!
No, there isn't, buddy.
Moving on to
There
the
should
jump
be,
scares
though.
in the game, and they do make a return. Some of them are better than others, but with the amount of animatronics in the game, the tension that comes from preventing yourself from getting jump scared is increased tenfold. And some of the jump scares are really, really lame.
God, what a shit jump scare. I love that fucking...
The point I made earlier in the video about jump scares being a cheap way of getting a scare out of someone is definitely valid here, because some jump scares, in particular Golden Freddy's one, just involves a PNG flying towards the camera with a really loud sound. That's just bollocks! Anyone can do a scare like that. Here, I'll do it right now.
I like the smiley face. I never watched this video with subtitles. I really like the smiley face stuff. This is good. I like that. This is good. I've never watched the subtitles. Hey, chat, can we get some smiles? Can we get some smiley faces? Yeah. Spooky video.
Exactly. It just doesn't
Why did that
work.
actually
There's
get me?
already
I knew
plenty
where
of
it
paranoia
come.
fuel in the game.
Hold on. What did that fucking say? Hold on. No, go back. No, go back. Oh, suck your mum. I thought that said suck your dick.
Exactly. It just doesn't work.
I had
There's
to double
already
check.
plenty of paranoia fuel in the game, so having the animatronics just tackle you to the ground with a loud noise really does nothing except provide plenty of tinnitus for the young kids playing the game. Or not playing the game and watching another YouTuber
That's
play it
me!
because they're too scared to play it themselves.
That was me!
This
Hi, that
reminds
was me!
While working on this video, I decided to play through all the games again from scratch, and you can watch the series on my second channel, which will show up around here and will be linked in the description. So if you want to watch a 2021 revisiting of the franchise, yes, I said 2021, it's taking me this long to work on the video, then head on over to my second channel, T9, to watch more from it. Back to the game once again, and your mission as the night guard is exactly the same as the first game. Survive until 6 AM, whatever the cost. Since adding a power counter like the first game would be pretty overkill, instead you're asked to temper your usage of the flashlight, as it's imperative to flash Foxy in the hallway to prevent him from entering the office. Because Foxy really likes to be flashed. To counteract this, you have some new characters such as Balloon Boy, who only exist to ruin your day. If you let him in the office, he will render your flashlight unusable, so you better hope you're near 6 AM or else. At the end of each night, you get thrown into a cutscene similar to the one in the beginning of the game, where you're seemingly looking through Freddy's eyes at Chica or Bonnie on either side. And as the nights progress, different things start happening, such as them suddenly looking at you, Golden Freddy appearing, and the puppet blocking their vision. By the time you get to night 5, you might as well be playing Osu with Parkinson's while sitting on a taser, because the amount of micromanaging of every single animatronic under the sun is insane. But after this night, you get given a paycheck of $100 for your hard work over the week. I'm going to devour the rich. 2 games in, and we've been grossly underpaid. Why am I still here?
Good,
If you look closely at the paycheck you've been given, you'll notice that it's dated 12th of November 1987 or the 11th of December 1987, I don't care. The point is, if it hadn't been made obvious by some of the hints throughout the game, such as the animatronics being able to walk around during the day, and the fact that Phone Guy is still alive, this game is indeed a prequel to the first game. Which is really confusing because the Phone Guy specifically mentions improvements to the office that were drawbacks in the first game, like the mention of no doors and unlimited power. In fact,
Same,
the
read it so bad.
line, Git? I thought this was supposed to be a summer job for 1 week. Why am I getting my check at the end of the year? What's going on? If you're somehow crazy enough to go for overtime, you get a bonus paycheck of $20.10. Wow, I can buy an Xbox 720 with that money! That aside, the Phone Guy outright confirms that this game is a prequel to the first, as the pizzeria closes down at the end of the game, and he mentions that he's going to be taking the night shift himself whenever the restaurant opens again, leading into the events right before the first game. Interestingly enough, at the end of the 7th playable night in game, where you're able to edit the difficulty of each and every one of the animatronics, you get fired from your job for being a sweaty gamer once again. However, eagle-eyed viewers would notice that the slip you've been given is addressed to a completely different person than the guy.
God damn it, I forgot about that one. Cheers! This is gonna be a long day, isn't it?
God, you're playing as up
How
until
far are we? We're not even fucking an hour in.
point, which is also weird because technically speaking, this should be his first day on the job, and yet there were no phone calls from Phone Guy. The story is starting to get a little bit confusing to follow, but there's several features in FNAF 2 to help people theorize or put their own pieces of lore together, such as the mini-games that sometimes show up upon getting jump-scared, where you're guiding some of the animatronics throughout this 8-bit section of the game, complete with creepy sounds of a person burping into a microphone. These give small hints as to what the story of the game so far entails, and are obviously capped
3
off
shots,
with...
boys.
Alright then. Again, people did enjoy the game on launch, but the issues of the game having little to no replay
It's only
value
worse
still
from here,
remain,
isn't it?
and there were
If I
some
remember
people even
right.
complaining about the difficulty in managing so many different things at once, which is something Scott's games have all asked of the player to do, even as far back as Chipper and Sons Lumberco. Even with these...
If you are confused and new, I'll real quick recap for you. The current thing, is every time a certain video plays, every time the, is it this one? Yeah, there it is. Every time, I can't get it to fucking show up again. Whatever, every time the question mark video plays, you get the idea. I'm taking a shot. So, yeah.
Drawbacks, the Freddy
You actually did it? Of course I did it.
Exponentially, and the franchise was starting to balloon in popularity. Several fan games had started development, something which I'll get into later, and Scott set out to answer some of the many questions people had surrounding the story when he released...
Okay, so we had 1 in Chipper and Sons and 2 in FNAF 2. I'm fucking scared.
Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was released on March the 2nd, 2015.
That's really how I feel about that fucking game, man.
Okay, I'm just kidding. Before I get into the game itself, I wanted to quickly talk about a topic that surrounds the games that will become very relevant as the video goes on, and that's the marketing. Some people will call the fast releases between
I love that bit.
milking, while others
Are you worried about how many?
capitalizing on the popularity of your IP,
Slightly.
which could also be called...
Good lord, mid-game,
Anyway,
agree.
Scott's way of marketing games, especially the first couple of games in the
Night, sir.
franchise, is something that really heightened the creep factor and kept FNAF in the public eye throughout the development cycle of
Thank
each
you
of
again
the
for the
games.
subs.
Most of the teasers were posted on Scott's website, scottgames.com, and they mainly were just regular images or screenshots from the next game in the series. Most of the time, that's regular. I mean, it's just a way to get people excited for the next game. But Scott took things one step further by hiding things in any new photo that showed up on the website, either in the website's code or on the image itself. Brightening some of the teasers get you some interesting tidbits for the next game. This turned FNAF FANS into detectives, looking into every last nook and cranny of Scott's website to see secrets that would hint at future games in the franchise. FNAF 3 is where this all came to a head, as there were several teasers that randomly showed up on the site in the build-up to Five Nights at Freddy's 3's release, such as an offline teaser that, when brightened, would show a big fat 3 on the bottom right corner, and this teaser of some toys in a box that looks normal and ominous at first, until you brighten it and you notice... Oh,
No, not this time. Not this time.
So let's
God,
get to the
I would
game
be
itself,
so
shall we?
drunk if
First
we
things
included
first,
KSI
this
bits.
game really loves to use a lot of the green in its aesthetic, and the office you're staying in is wildly different to any of the games thus far because you're literally in a horror attraction. Yes, that's right. Based on the mysteries of the original pizzeria, some fellas decided to make a horror attraction with the animatronics that exist solely to scare your socks off. Whether it did a good job in this game is... debatable, but your mission is made clear. Survive once again until 6 AM. Now, you'd think it being a horror attraction would make this game infinitely scarier than previous outings. I mean, the entire point of this place is to scare, so surely it would do a great job in freaking you out. No. Compared to the previous games where there were literally millions of animatronics after you and any mistake would end your life, this game only has one. Who the hell is he? Doesn't really look like a bear to me unless I'm...
Fuck off. Cheers. I regret this already. Ah.
Stupid. And I'm not stupid. This lovely specimen is called Springtrap. That sounds like a music genre. If you don't know who he is, Don't worry,
Woo!
neither do I. But all you need to know is that he's the only animatronic in the game and the only danger you have to face in the entirety of the game's playtime.
Fuck you,
Sort
Bun.
of. Once you load into the first night, you get called by a more laid-back and upbeat version of Phone Guy, who was very fittingly named Phone Dude. He will welcome you to the
I love how he said
office,
stupid
and on
after
night
you
one,
drank.
You're tasked with
He
familiarizing
would
yourself
call
with
me
the way the
stupid.
cameras work in this game. Unlike the previous two games, you have the option to play audio in any of the characters and are also given access to vent cameras that you can seal. These can all malfunction, however, and you will have to reboot them if they do malfunction. However, you won't have to do this at all on night one, making this one of the most boring nights of the entire franchise, where you can literally go AFK and nothing more would happen. On night 2, however, that's when the game actually begins, so technically this game's title is clickbait because you're only spending 4 nights at Freddy's. Why are we even questioning this? Springtrap is discovered on this night.
I got
so
scared
from
when he
this
said
night
questioning.
onwards, your
I was
main
waiting
goal
for it.
is to prevent Springtrap from entering the office through any means necessary. Failure to do so will result in you getting jump scared. And his jump scare is one of the lamest in the franchise thus far, as all he does is walk towards you with a shit-eating grin on his face. You will also find that there's several hallucinations throughout the game caused by ventilation errors that just so happen to occur throughout the night. It
Honestly,
feels
the
like anything
hallucinations
associated
were the
with Freddy
scariest
Fazbear
part
at
of
this
this
point is
game.
doomed to have some technical errors. What if I name my PC Freddy Fazbear? Will it just malfunction? If your reflexes are not fast enough, you get a very obvious warning before you're jump scared. Freddy will just slink across the glass outside your room, and looking at him for too long causes him to dip and then scare you. Balloon Boy can appear on any camera, and if he does, you only have around 2 seconds to get rid of him by switching cameras, or he'll jump scare you. Foxy can randomly show up in your room, and he can jump scare you if you just look at him, so ignoring him is your best shot here. And if you see the puppet in your monitor camera, it can also jump scare you.
I do?
None of these jump scares actually end the
Do
game.
I really,
but they will
Deku?
cause a severe malfunction of either the vents, the camera, or the audio, and you have to reboot them all in order to continue surviving. This is a massive source of frustration for many people who played the game on release or are even replaying it now, as the buttons just do not work. It wasn't enough that the building's core functions are prone to malfunctioning regularly. Apparently this tech runs on Windows Vista because it takes so bloody long to do anything, and you'll be clicking like a madman trying to make things work. Springtrap himself is essentially a little value xenomorph, as he's attracted by sound, so you've got to play audio either in the room he's in or in the room next to him, so he isolates as far from the office as possible. And if he manages to get into the vents, you have to seal the vent he's in as fast as possible before he makes a beeline to your office. And I mean a literal beeline. He can be on one side of the building and suddenly he's zooming across your monitor screen or just peeking into the office from the outside. Seems like he's too much of a pussy to come into the office to chat shit. Well, the game forces him
God,
into
you're
the
so
office,
British,
as the lack of
Jesus.
ventilation will cause you to have blackouts, which gives him the perfect opportunity to... This game will quickly become a boring
thank you
slog
guys for helping
between
me hit the
nights, as all
subgoal.
you have to do is keep an eye on Springtrap, and if he moves, you call him back to a camera further away from you, making this probably the easiest game in the franchise, as there's no micromanaging whatsoever. You can just play tennis with Springtrap's location until the end of the night. However, it is the end of the nights that provide the main reason why people like this game so much, and it's the story. In between each night, there's a mini game that you have to play that explains the story of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria and why the animatronics in the first game do what they do. There are several videos out there that have summarized the story and offered their own theories and headcanons and lore dumps, but I think I probably have the simplest explanation for things, and I did it in the last video, so I'm just going to play it again. All the animatronics in the franchise are possessed by kids that have been killed before. The murderer is the Purple Man. Each night shows the Purple Man killing another kid, and in the final night, they have a gamers rise up moment and trap the Purple Man in an animatronic suit to kill him at the end. You see? Easy explanation. But I'll elaborate a tiny bit anyway to fill in some extra gaps, because this will become relevant moving forward in the video. This purple guy,
I think it's funnier if it's
Purple
little.
Guy, creative naming conventions, I know, was a serial killer. Before I continue, I know the smartasses are probably going to start crying in the comments. Actually, that's not what he is. He's the CEO, robot inventor man thing, who's the author of all of our pain and the reason why the entire franchise— Shut up! I'm talking about the story as of the release of this game, and I think the story is bollocks anyway. I said it! Anyway, Purple Guy was seen in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, but during the mini-games where you see a purple car pull up behind a crying
Minch's
child,
timing amazing.
And after doing something with the child that caused them to cry even harder, all their life points hit 0 and they turn grey, hinting at what Purple Guy did. Anyway, on each of the nights, all of the animatronics one by one are led by a purple Freddy, and they're all slaughtered once they encounter an area where they're not allowed to go without the game stuttering. On night 5, each of the victims of the slaughter corner purple guy, and he tries to run away from them, choosing to hide in a yellow suit. Obviously, this doesn't work because this is a Freddy Fazbear related product, so malfunctions would obviously be likely. This then leads into the spring lock mechanism.
How you feeling? A little bit.
During the night,
It's starting to hit a
him
little
getting crushed
slowly.
inside it. And Springtrap was born. Upon seeing this cutscene, you will get 2 possible endings. If you play through the game normally without doing anything extra throughout the night, you will get the bad ending, showing that the spirits in each of the animatronics are still rampant. However, if you are inquisitive enough to search everything in the game, as far as tapping tiles on the office building corresponding to notes you find on a previous night, which is a crazy attention to detail, you will get the good ending, showing that all the souls have been put to rest and the mysteries behind the original pizzeria have finally been revealed, leaving only one more loose end to solve. But again, we're getting too ahead of ourselves. When this game was released, the reception was mixed. Most people pointed to the lame jump scares and the boring gameplay loop as causes for concern. But audiences unanimously agreed that this was a somewhat satisfying end to a trilogy of unique point-and-click horror games. Most fans point to Springtrap as being one of the most well-designed antagonists and animatronics in the entire franchise. And you know what? I agree. Springtrap was the logical next step in trying to make the animatronics creepy, especially considering the complete opposite was the case with the toy animatronics in a previous game. Even though the uncanny valley nature of the animatronics is kind of lost now, which is some of the scariest things the franchise had to offer, Springtrap himself and the baggage he brought to Five Nights at Freddy's proved a fan favorite, and fans wished for more.
By the way, these are all
But
straight
sometimes
shots.
things
I'm
are
not like
better
chasing
left
or
alone
nothing.
for now. Wait, that's the wrong game.
What's your favorite FNAF game? 4, actually. 4 is my favorite. I think 4 is really interesting.
Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was released on July 23rd, 2015, and before I even talk about the game, I wanted to mention that this game was slated as the final chapter of Five Nights at Freddy's. Before the game was released, most of the loose ends about the story were already pretty much wrapped up, such as why the animatronics in the original games are so hell-bent on annihilating the player. Technically speaking, the final loose end that still needed to be discovered was what in the hell the fabled Bites of 87 was, and with the promotional material for the game seemingly focusing on a whodunit type mystery, there seemed to be a sense of finality with this game. After some fans
I love that bit.
Gameplay mechanics of the previous game, and others are not really that scared playing the game, Scott decided that enough is enough. I'm gonna make the animatronics really scary now. And you've probably already seen them from when I was talking about the promotional material, but he took the original animatronic designs from the first game and really cranked things up to 200. All the animatronics got run through the symbiote filter and look like more monstrous versions of themselves. Look how many Freddys are just molded onto Freddy's skin. These animatronics are certified grotesque. Interestingly enough, upon opening the game, you can already tell that this game's going to be wildly different from any of its predecessors.
I didn't
As instead
realize
of an animatronic showing up in the main
that those
menu,
weren't
which was the
bushes,
case
by
in
the way,
FNAF's
in
1
the
through
main
3,
menu.
you have a rather simple menu of a house in the distance, and all around the menu you have what can only be described as an amalgamation of
I thought those were
animatronic parts.
bushes.
You can tell that Scott really tried to make this game really different to the previous games in the franchise. These particular versions of the main animatronics are fittingly named Nightmares, and the reason why they're called Nightmares is because of the main character and the protagonist of this specific game, and we get introduced to him upon beginning the very first night. Instead of a security guard that's ridiculously underpaid, overworked, and defenseless, we're playing as a little boy who can't stop crying. His birthday party's in a couple of days, and he has a deathly fear of the restaurant near his house, only finding solace in his plushies who provide comfort for him. This isn't
Why is Foxy's head missing, by the way?
I hope you're treating them well. What becomes an issue is his older brother and his friends really don't like him and take every opportunity to jump scare him at random points throughout the minigames. We'll talk more about the rest of them later, but right now we're starting a new night and whoa!
You're a kid, boy? No, I meant a kid who can't stop crying.
Different, to say the least.
God damn it. Cheers. Ugh. Fuck.
Instead of the typical office environment, you're now tasked with surviving in your own massive room that somehow
What am I drinking? Captain Morgan straight out the bottle.
Crossing from one side to the other is going to take
Ooh.
ages. There's no time to fret though.
Oh, 5 shots in 15 minutes, not bad. Thaf, I know what's coming. I know what's coming. I'm regretting this very quickly.
You have to get familiar with the gameplay mechanics as fast as you can, and as you've already noticed, there is no phone guy to help you. There are also no monitors either, so how are you supposed to know if an animatronic is coming? The answer to that question is one of the most divisive game mechanics the franchise has ever conjured up. You have to use your ears. No, wait, don't cut them off! This game relies a lot on 3D sound, and it's pretty much a requirement to have headphones on to play this game, otherwise you will end up failing. The animatronic behavior in Fnaf 4 is similar to the original game in that Bonnie comes in from the left and Chica comes in from the right. You have to crank your volume all the way up to 200% because you will hear footsteps either on your left or on your right, signaling their arrival. If one of them gets near to the door,
I want to know what that photo on the wall
is.
is by the lamp.
What you're actually doing is dragging your face across the carpet. Once you've arrived at the door, the game will hold your hand up first and tell you this since there's no phone guy, but
did you eat before this? I did eat. I made sure to eat, and I do have water just in case.
So will... Oh. Nothing happened. Oopsie daisy. Joking aside, this is where having your volume up is important, as you're supposed to listen very carefully for breathing in your ear. If you do hear it, you have to slam the door immediately, as that means an animatronic is right outside. Once you're sure they're gone, you have to run back to the middle of the room. And repeat all night. This game takes the frantic gameplay from all the previous games in the franchise and turns it on its head, forcing you to slow down, as rushing to any of the doors could prove fatal in this game. Looking around this BAR, also known as Big Ass Room, and you'll notice a closet in the middle. This closet contains nothing. For now, looking behind you and there's a bed with a Freddy plushie, and of course, as is custom for Five Nights at Freddy's, you can click on the nose for a honk. As you play through the night, you're supposed to balance looking behind you and looking through the doors, as if you don't look behind you enough.
Guys, that's a good frame. Guys, I can feel it. Uh-oh. We're not even an hour in. Oh no.
Things will begin to
it's
show
starting
up.
to happen.
Look at the plushie will result in it getting really, really angry and assaulting you off the bed. And now comes the talk about the one thing that people give this game.
I'm really feeling it.
And sometimes good rep, really depending on the person you talk to. The jump
so true, Yellow.
Sometime during the developments of the game, Scott must have met up with some developers at
Valve
because they clearly collaborated to make a noise that would destroy your entire neighborhood. Because of the way the game mechanics work, you would have to have your volume up extremely high so you can hear the cues for the animatronics breathing down your neck, which would become a major issue in some cases where the game would be really quiet and you may guess incorrectly. One thing I failed to mention is that sometimes you can see glimpses of the animatronics in the hallway, but if you guess incorrectly and shut the door too early, or when there's no breathing, the animatronics will make a beeline to the door, and when you open it and shine your flashlight, your ears will start bleeding. And unlike the previous games where upon death you're greeted with static, this game is definitely darker and edgier because you just get a whole lot of blood on the screen.
I love how shitty that blood
is. As Foxy can run into the room at any time and you have to check on him in the closet periodically. Same goes for any of the other animatronics. For some reason, you're just unable to close the doors and lock them. The Freddy Fazbear Curse.
Why did that say to Americans, really? Wow, I'm fucking very bright. Thaf, can I ask you, why did that say to Americans, really? I can lock my fucking bedroom door. I can lock my office door. I can lock my fucking cat's room's door. Fuck you mean, do Americans really?
Strikes again, as this house seems to lack any locks on the doors. I mean, that would make the game ridiculously easy, wouldn't it? It also seemed like this was the game that Scott decided that absolutely everything should jump scare you, as Chica doesn't enter the room if you end up failing to check on her, instead electing to have a cupcake infiltrate the room instead. What? The nights in Fnaf...
Does that count? The video didn't show up, but the sound did. Do we count that? Oh. No, you saw it? You saw it. Where?
The room instead. What?
I don't see it. Oh, I see it. Motherfucker! Cheers. I didn't know it was there.
The nights in Fnaf 4 aren't even that long compared to the other games as well, as each hour lasts approximately.
It was like 10% opacity.
One of the shortest Five Nights at Freddy's games purely based
It was
on
like
hours
low
alone.
opacity.
Now, in some cases, if you look behind you, you'll notice an IV drip to the side of the bed, just hidden enough that you won't notice it until you look back at the footage you recorded. I'm very much projecting here. Anyways, this IV drip is a small Easter egg that.
Hold on. Total side note. Sorry, I was just thinking about this. Chat. 1. Should I do more drinking streams? 2. Should I do the thing on my reference sheet and make a new texture for my eyes that does the fucking goofy RGB shit? Should I do that? That should be fun. I think that would be fun. I'll do that sometime, I think.
Also hints at the story of Fnaf 4, which we'll get
Sam,
back
fuck
into
you.
in a moment.
You say no to anything I say.
After a cutscene where our boy
Love
gets
you,
jump scared yet again, we get a brand new game mode called Fun with Plush Trap. I think this game mode was added in purely because the game's mechanics are very frustrating and people.
I would have mixed it with stuff if I had stuff, but I
This
didn't
game mode
today.
places
Alcohol
you in a
costs money?
hallway and
Oh,
turns you
I
into
don't
that
drink
large
that
girl
much.
from Squid Games where you're playing red light, green light with a plushy version of Springtrap from the previous game. You have to listen really closely for Plush Trap's movements as he will start moving towards you.
What is that jingle?
Very slowly. When your light is on, however, he will
What is
stop
this music?
moving. Like red light, green light.
Does anybody
Your
know
task
what
is
that
to
is?
try and stop Plush Trap right on the cross on the floor. If you succeed, the game very generously gives you 2 hours
TF2?
off of the next night, starting you at
I
2
like
a.m.,
that. That
making
sounds
the nights
cool.
much shorter. However, if you either run out of time or fail to stop Plush Trap on the cross and let him get too close, you lose the bonus for the rest of your session. I do appreciate something different from Scott to shake things up a little bit gameplay-wise, but again, the problem of needing your headphones volume up at 300% only to get tinnitus is very relevant here, as the footsteps are very quiet compared to the shrieking from Plush Trap. As is custom for every FNAF game, the nights get progressively harder, but there's a huge twist in the 5th night of the game. All of the animatronics have disappeared! Well, I say disappeared. What actually happened is that they were all sent to the bench, and they were replaced with a bigger, badder
Jed,
animatronic
did you
that you have to
fucking...
ward off for the whole
I don't know if
night.
you're still here. Did you fucking
Nightmare
render that or
Fredbear.
something?
So in Night 5, all your gameplay knowledge is thrown out the window and replaced with entirely new gameplay mechanics that are designed to throw you off. Instead of going down one hallway and staying there, Fredbear got his running shoes on as he runs across the entirety of the house trying to get into your room. And you must have headphones on at this point, as he runs from the left to the right and back to the left in random intervals. Once he's ran to one end, you have to go to that door, but instead of closing the door immediately, you have to flash Fredbear once to make sure he's in that hallway. Because Fredbear really loves to be flashed. If you keep flashing him though, he will get closer and want a piece of you. Literally. In the case that you hear Fredbear have a little bit of a giggle, that means he's already in your room and you'll either find him on your bed or in the closet. This gameplay
I forgot about the bed.
Fredbear and opening and closing every single one of the doors repeats for the entire night, making this night technically the easiest to pass out of all of them except the very first night. Because instead of loads of animatronics giving you trouble, now you only have to listen for one. A speedy one, but one nonetheless. After you beat this night, you complete the game. Or do you? Going all the way back to the story of...
Hold on, I need to read this. I love how the more drunk Alex gets, the more her model moves like a generic big titty white woman VTuber with an OnlyFans. What you mean by that? To quote Fnaf, what you mean by that? What the fuck you mean by that? Why am I all the way over here? What you fucking mean by that? You calling me a fucking white
game, and as I said before, you get bullied a lot by absolutely every one of your peers.
Sorry,
until the end of night 5
it's
signals,
the phase. I'm sorry, I can't keep.
Your family are so supportive of you and want only the best for your well-being. You're sent on an amazing birthday trip to the pizzeria you're deathly afraid of. And what makes things even better is that your brother and his friends really want you to get up close and personal with the big animatronic that's entertaining everyone today.
I love this bit. Hold on.
Silly little fellows. Peculiar old chums. So they carry you Spider-Man 2 style to the big golden animatronic in the room. Aren't they thoughtful? Then they jam you in his mouth. Obviously, putting a child in the mouth of a big robot is not exactly the smartest thing to do. So the FFCMO acts up again, leading into one of the most iconic moments of the entire franchise.
Wake up! Fuck you! Shut up! I love this part.
Was that the 7?
It's all come full
gets me every time.
This is what Scott was building up to this entire time. This is what started it all and closed down the old location. Scott's a genius. How did he do this? A masterpiece in storytelling. Hold on, I have just to pick up this call. Blue,
Yellow?
red.
Green? Where are we going with this?
I don't know, you called me first.
Yeah, I've
I
been
love
told by an
Caddy.
anonymous tip that you're not done.
Pardon?
It didn't happen in 1987.
How do you know this?
Go back a few nights.
Why?
The TV.
What about it?
Turn it on.
All right, I'll switch it on, but I don't see how that's relevant.
Was that the bite of 87? 87? 87? 87?
Does Caddy even know about the FNAF lore? I have no idea.
That's great. Splendid. Wait, how did you get my...
Have fun!
I would like everybody to know that when I met Caddy, and when me and Caddy and Thaf and Rams were all hanging out in Boston, when Thaf introduced me as his model maker, Caddy went, "Oh, so you're the one I can blame for everything." I'm like, no, Caddy! He knows! He knows!
After beating Night 5, you unlock a couple of
He
bonuses in the
knows.
menu, such as a star that shows up when you beat Night 5. This is the first of many. I'll get there in a bit. And, as is custom for every FNAF game again, a sixth night. Night 6 is basically
What,
Night 4
Deku?
but on extreme steroids, as you have to manage all of the animatronics again. Then they'll tag in Nightmare Fredbear to catch you unawares and change the game mechanics at 4 AM. So you gotta be ready to shift fast. After beating Night 6 though, you're given a cutscene which shows that after his brother's heinous prank, our boy was in critical condition in the hospital, which is also a callback to the Easter egg that's randomly shown if you look at your bed. Each of the plushies start to fade and the brother can only apologize for what happened. After everyone fades away, a random character will vow to put him back together, and what sounds like a heart monitor
phone's dying, hold
flatlines,
on.
ending the story on a depressing note.
Okay.
But at
Hold
least
on.
you gotta start from it. Night 7 is unlocked after beating Night 6, and it can
Sorry.
be seen through the extra menu. Normally, I don't talk about all the nights in this much
There
detail,
we go.
but FNAF 4 is actually one of the most
Sorry, I had to
detailed
plug
games
my
in the
iPhone in.
franchise, as almost every single night and challenge is its own behemoth and has its own story
Deku,
within,
no.
with different game mechanics.
Drink
for each
water?
night.
I
It
can
seemed
do
that
that.
Scott really wanted to end the franchise on a high note with how much
All right,
content
done.
was crammed into this one game.
Ugh!
Night 7 is pretty much Night 6 all over again, but instead of Fredbear, this animatronic is just called
Nightmare!
and he's basically Fredbear,
Good.
but with steroids and Adderall injected right into his...
Deku! Deku, I can't refund all these points. You're a piece of shit. I can't refund all these points. Fucking... God damn it. Oh, I can't even refund it. Okay, great. Well, thank you. Guys, I have bad news. Deku redeemed ad time, so I gotta do a 30-second ad, but I'm pausing the video. Sorry in advance. Somebody tell me when the ad's over. Somebody tell me when the ad's over. No, don't pause. I'm pausing. You're a fucking dickhead. It'll be funnier. Ugh. Somebody tell me when the ad's over. I did like the pots and pans. My fucking tits look huge with the wide filter. Deku started fucking being an asshole. Alright, it's been like 30 seconds.
left nostril. At 4 AM, the animatronics tag him in, and you have to be on your A game, as he's incredibly fast and zooms across your house at 567
Shut up,
miles per
Deku.
second.
Be nice to your
Instead
wife.
of grabbing you and screaming in your face, however, he decides that he's had enough frames for you today, as he just does this.
Honestly, the sound was interesting, but the jump scare fucking sucks.
After beating
So
this night,
bad.
however, then you can say you've at least made it through the main game, as you're given a
What did
third
you do to
star,
me?
But a quick cutscene before then shows an ominous box. You'd think that it's a gift from the developer for going through this much effort to beat the game, yes? Nope. It can't be opened, and you're just told that some things are best left forgotten. For now. But at least you can now say you've beaten the game, and you don't have to touch it anymore. Wait,
Deku.
guys, there's extra nights too. I mean,
Stop
these
being
are
mean.
self-explanatory, aren't they? All of these are made to ruin your experience and make the game disgustingly hard to play. Stevie Wonder mode puts you in pitch black and somehow expects you to beat the game without knowing the status of Foxy, and this is where sound cues are extremely important, because you won't even know what time it is until you either get jump scared, which somehow repairs your vision, or you beat your night. Mad Freddy is not a sequel to Mad Father, sorry, but it makes Freddy behind you a lot more active. Insta Foxy does what it says on the tin. Foxy's instant constantly in your closet at the start of the night, and you have to ward him off from 12 AM. And All Nightmare is similar to Night 5 in the main game, where only Nightmare shows up and you have to ward him off for the entirety of the night. You can also mix and match these challenges to make your life so much more difficult, but at the end of it all, you're awarded stars for each challenge. And somehow, I did all of it. Yeah, do not ask me how I managed to beat everything.
I
but
think
you can
you're
probably
crazy
guess
for
which
being
game I
able to
enjoyed
do that,
playing the
by the way,
most out
Fnaf.
of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games. These challenges were added in a Halloween patch of the game, released on October 30th, 2015. And in this Halloween edition, all of the animatronics were changed with the exception of the Freddys, with Bonnie and Chica getting splashed with Whatsits,
Dude.
Foxy getting replaced with Mangle, Balloon
Their
Boy
Halloween
replacing
versions are
Plushtrap,
so
and instead
sick.
of Nightmare, we have the puppet returning from FNAF 2 and 3, also known as Nightmare On. When Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was released, critics and audiences were divided over the game, me included. A lot of people pointed out to the increased tension of the nights as you're relying on sound cues instead of looking at the animatronics slowly arriving in your room via any of the cameras. Coupled with absolutely
Guys,
no
I don't
dialogue
remember-
in the game at all, which was a first for
I don't
FNAF,
remember
this
where the
did
rest of the
make
question
for a
marks
creepy
are.
game.
I'm getting
The
scared.
more emotional story surrounding a boy pretty much getting bullied and eventually murdered, yes, murdered, between the nights also tied everything together and served as a great finale to the
scared.
entire Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Although stupid story beats that only served to add more confusion to the whole lore soured a lot of people from it. I remember a lot of content creators were extremely confused as the marketing made a lot of sense to loop things back to the bite of 87 in the original game. But it's at this point that it seemed that Scott could have let go of the entire franchise. I mean, each of the games brought something entirely new to the indie horror genre, and it wasn't long before people started to make clones of FNAF. The critical response to FNAF 4 made this the lowest rated FNAF game, even to this day, and you
It's
can
still my
kind of see
favorite.
why. While the game certainly had a terrifying aesthetic, the over-reliance on sound cues just couldn't cut it for a lot of players. That being said, the franchise was at a high point. This was a great finale to a quadrilogy of games, and Scott commemorated it with a big render showcasing all of the animatronic designs he'd made from the first full game on his website, thanking all of his fans and friends for catapulting Five Nights at Freddy's into the limelight, ensuring that the franchise and story ended on a high point, lauded as one of the most iconic horror franchises in gaming history. Wait,
The
what are you doing?
render!
Why is everyone changing? Wait, stop it! Why is everyone turning into chibi? Stop!
The render! Guys, look, it's me! It's my chapter! Woo!
After the release of FNAF 4, Scott decided that the best course of action for the franchise was to take a little bit of a break from the scares. After all, releasing that many games in such a short amount of time is bound to cause someone to get just a tiny bit burnt out from the franchise. So Scott decided to slow things down a little and work on a
Six
brand
shots
new
as
game
well,
almost
sir.
immediately after
Thank
the
you,
release of
Decker.
Five Nights at Freddy's 4. The marketing of Five Nights at Freddy's in general also plays a big part to this game in particular, as the render he made thanking the fans for supporting Five Nights at Freddy's featured almost every single animatronic in the franchise. However, starting from September 2015, some of the animatronic designs started changing in what I'd like to call the Teen Titans Go syndrome. I probably should think of a better name than that. Each of the animatronics started evolving into chibi versions of themselves one by one, with the render on the website updating almost every other day, and the thank you message slowly but surely being faded out to make way for the title of the
Dude,
game,
some of
which
those
was revealed as
chibis are
FNAF World.
so ugly.
However, fans looked at the promo material and were quick to claim a load of bollocks. FNAF World was initially released on Steam in 2016. And yes, I did say initially. This game is a complete and
I love
utter
you too,
tonal
Deck.
shift from the previous games in the franchise, where the past 4 games had you as the protagonist defending yourselves against
Yeah, hell
haunted
yeah,
animatronics, with the only gameplay being you moving your mouse around. Scott decided to throw all of that right out the window again and create an Excel spreadsheet game instead. Upon opening the game for the first time, he's actually serious about this one. FNAF World is essentially Scott Cawthon's answer to Teen Titans Go, where you take a franchise not necessarily for kids and then run it through a saturation filter. Haven't we heard this one before? All of the animatronics that were bound to give you nightmares from the original
So
games
true.
have all been replaced with cuter versions of themselves? Except from Chica. Jesus Christ, why are her teeth like that? Who approved this? You will then notice that the game's
Fucking
customization
Manny, dude.
options are quite similar to Chipper & Sons in that you're given 3 slots, and upon starting a new game, you're asked to erase data, even though you've never even played this game before. That's a bit ominous. Afterwards, you're
I
plunged
kinda
into
like
the
that
next screen where you're tasked with picking your starter Pokemon, and you're given a wide variety of animatronics you're eventually going to meet throughout the game. With 40
I like Chibi
potential
Marionette.
playable characters,
Chibi
unless you
Marionette's
go for the
cute.
fixed party option, which will lock you to the first 8 options. After choosing your starters, you're then given context
Chica
to the
has my
story of
teeth
FNAF
for
World,
real.
and you can tell that Scott has learned his lesson from Chipper and Sons many years ago, as this time the characters are all animated in the cutscenes. So what's the story here? Wouldn't you like to know? Trouble seems to be brewing in Animatronica. Scott seems to be really unsure about naming the world of FNAF because he even made a typo in the cutscene. This bodes well. There have been a lot of bizarre creatures roaming around lately, even some that look like... Wait a second. That wasn't remotely worth it. After the opening exposition dump where you're tasked with going around to see what the hell is even going on here, you're plunged right into the game and... This is what you're greeted with. Hang on a second. I thought this was supposed to be 3D. Have I been Ubisofted again? I can't even move Diagon Alley.
Okay, real talk. Tell me about this. I prefer this. I think this is cooler. I like it like this. And I kind of wish the whole game was like that. I think I like the fucking Atari aesthetic. I said it.
This tiny screen is essentially what you're going to be looking at for the entirety of the game.
The screen is
so
tiny.
Have fun.
Though, yes.
The art direction that this specific part of the game seems to follow is the mini games that the franchise is all too known for, as you're given 4 options at the bottom of the UI to see your party members, save the game, and bite some crisps. Anyway, let's start moving and... Oh, so here's where most of the gameplay stems from. The battles. At any point in the overworld section, you can get plunged into a wild Pokemon battle where you fight one of Scott's many monstrosities, such as Gearats, Bounce Pots, and Metal Men to name a few. Each of the animatronics have their own abilities within your party, and you have the option to switch between your assigned groups at any time in the battle. However, it's at this point where the game really shows its limitations. The combat is turn-based, and sometimes the game doesn't even know when it's your turn, as you could be waiting for what seems like ages before the UI shows up to choose an ability. Even after choosing said ability, the enemies can still attack you, so you better hope the in-game user interface and RNG is on your side. The game also chooses the character to attack with as opposed to you having that option, which turns all the battles in the game to you just clicking whatever the game wants you to click on, while being overloaded by just how much stuff is happening on the screen, which gets a whole lot worse as the game continues, and you have more enemies to fight. Each animatronic has their own class, although the game doesn't really explain things. Some abilities affect every enemy, and others affect only one, and the only way in which to tell is by looking at the color codes that the game displays when it's your turn. After going through enough sensory overload that would give even the most seasoned Polybius enjoy an aneurysm, you just win. Or you can run away if the enemies are proving too much for you. If you end up defeating the monsters, you gain XP and fast tokens for your hard work. But where do you spend your hard-earned fast tokens? I'm glad you asked. Well, that sounded really weird. Because scattered around the overworld are random bots you can talk to named
Guys, I'm
Mendos.
terrified.
Mendo
When the
runs a
fuck is
store
the next
called
question mark
Mendo's
gonna happen?
Endo upgrades, and you can use your fast tokens to buy upgrades to your endoskeleton to help you survive some of the harder boss battles in the games. And yes, there are boss battles. You can also use fast tokens at Lolbit's Bite Store. This is a store where you can essentially buy insects.
Hot take. I think Lolbit is cuter than Mango. I said it.
That will also attack your enemies consistently throughout any battle in the game. Looking at the prices for some of the items on both stores, and you're already dreading having to play FNAF World for hours on end to get yourself some decent upgrades, aren't you? Well, worry no more, because right next to the store,
I like
you
the
also
colors
have
better.
Didi. What are you doing outside Dexter's lab? Anyway, you can earn fast tokens by completing her minigame, which has you attempt to fish a pearl out from under the sea in under a minute. Unfortunately, you can't abuse this game mode, as upon completing the minigame, Didi goes out of action for an undisclosed amount of time. However, there is another way to earn fast tokens, and it does require a little bit of...
This is such a good bit.
hacking.
I love this bit. This is so good.
Is this thing on? Is it on? Are we good? We're good. So you want to get the best possible upgrades in the game, and you're too lazy to slog through several boring hours of Excel spreadsheets. Well, good thing I'm here, because I can tell you exactly how to do it. If you're on a Windows machine, you're gonna want to go to your app data folder, then locate MMF applications. This folder contains data for every single game you played developed using Click Team Fusion, which may include the original FNAF games as well. Locate FNAF W. This is your data for FNAF World. You'll notice that it's a generic file. Well, not to worry. Windows will ask you what you want to open the file with, and you need Notepad. When you open the file, you're gonna get a whole load of tech jargon. This is data that's read by Fnaf World and converted to what you see in the game. You can then go and edit everything, from how many tokens you have to just how powerful your animatronics are. Make sure you save, reopen the game, and watch as this game becomes the most ridiculously easy RPG-like game you've ever played in your life, saving you hours and cementing yourself as the biggest god gamer on the planet. Also, make sure you reverse the changes afterwards. You wouldn't want to get in too much trouble now, would you?
Funny.
And now we're back. When FNAF World was initially released, people
Darkiplier, guys, no, it's hacked.
It was like the game
Stop
took
it.
their families out back and gave them $2 million in Dogecoin, then shot them dead. Most of the reasons why people hated the game were mainly down to the extremely unfinished nature of it. When the trailer dropped, Scott specifically showed footage of the overworld, and it was in full screen and all in 3D. When the game was dropped on Steam, Scott seemingly threw all of that out of the window again and
Why
went
does it have
beyond
nipple
Ubisoft in
detail?
the game.
Okay. Alright, hold on. I can explain. So, the original base model I used for Hack 9, which we got the rights for, has nipples. And I showed it to Thaf and I said, do you want me to remove the nipples? And he said, no, that's funny. So that's why Hack 9 has nipples.
Downgrading the visuals to the old-fashioned Atari style that he loved using in the previous FNAF games. If the game looked like this from the get-go, I think people
I was
would
gonna
be more
remove
welcome into FNAF World, but expectations were already at surface level, only for them to not be met. The battle system being awful didn't help matters either, with its buggy and unexplained nature really not improving people's opinion on the game. In general, this game seemed to be the victim of its own hype, leaving people to be incredibly disappointed as FNAF World was an unfinished product that people paid for. Some would say that this is incredibly foreshadowing to the future of the franchise, but again, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. I've said this many times. At the poor reception of the game, Scott did something that most devs probably would never do and took the game down of his own volition. The game was removed from Steam after a small statement, and Scott allowed refunds of the game to anyone who bought it, which in my opinion is a really respectful thing to do as a dev. It takes a lot of balls to swallow your pride and admit that sometimes you have misses, which is more that can be said for a lot of devs I can mention. After taking the game down from Steam, Scott actually went back to the drawing board and returned a couple of months later with a brand new update to FNAF World, fittingly titled FNAF World Update 2, or Update 1.2 for being technical here. This game was Scott's Final Fantasy XIV moment, as it was a completely free overhaul of the entire game released on Game Jolt on May the 13th, 2016. This version of FNAF World basically took the original game and finished it, completely overhauling the majority of the game, from the visuals even down to the inclusion of mini-games within the game itself. I don't want to dwell too much on the game because there really isn't much to write home about, seeing as this is a spin-off and all, but I felt it's important to talk about the development and the work done on this game, as I think this is a testament to just how much Scott cared about the franchise. At the first sign of negative reviews, he took the time to refund people who paid for the game and push a free update to it instead, listening to all the criticisms that were there from the very start. And the self-awareness that this game
I have my
has
mask
is off
on.
the charts.
Oh, okay, hell
He knows
yeah.
just how much of a meme his franchise is, and makes
like,
sure
why is
that
my
the
mask
player
on?
knows it too, with spin-offs like Freddy in Space and Foxy Fighters making fun of the goofy nature of the game, coupled with references to
FNAF
Scott's
World is your first
pre-FNAF
FNAF
games
game.
such as
That's
The
interesting.
Desolate
Oh,
Hope
thank you
and
for this.
obviously Chipper and Sons. Literally everything got a facelift, with even more animatronics being added to the list of playable Pokemon, and the inclusion of voice
Pokemon.
acting. The voice acting in this game served as a neat addition to the tongue-in-cheek humor that Scott displayed throughout, especially in Foxy Fighters, where I'm pretty sure he knew that some people would get really annoyed with the vocal performances.
Here we go.
You won't get tired of my voice, will you? You won't get tired of my voice, will you? You won't get tired of my voice, will you? You won't get tired of my
Those
voice,
are the
will you?
subtitles,
You
by
won't
the
get
way.
tired of my voice, will you? You won't get tired of my voice, will you?
In general, FNAF World serves as a decent spin-off to the franchise,
Okay, hold
albeit
on.
with a few flaws. And it's more of a testament to Scott wanting the best for FNAF fans. Normally this would be the end,
What
right?
color is this
4
deck?
games in a spin-off. That's a lot for the franchise in a very short amount of time. Some would say that would be too many, but as you can see at the time code at the bottom of this screen, this video is nowhere near done. I am very sorry, future editing me. Anyways, during the development of Update 2, Scott was working on a continuation of the Fnaf franchise, and this time he was going to go back to the horror roots that gave the franchise the reputation that it originally had. But first, I think it's time to do something I don't normally do on videos like these and talk about some of the Fnaf-inspired fan games that were released in this time period. That's right, methinks it's time for a...
Piss yellow.
But before we get into the lightning round, I've come to make an announcement.
Alright, we're gonna watch the ad because you know what? I'm in this ad kind of
Keep it
in a weird way.
Blunter than Emily. I've released some brand new merch that's officially available on Fnaf.store. I've enlisted the help of some really talented artists to help you bring you products such as a framed limited edition poster, a cool hack face mask, a sleek gaming mouse pad with a really cool design on it, phone cases for Samsung and iPhone, stickers, and
there I am!
hoodies
I
and
made the
sweatshirts.
stickers.
There are even more items for you to choose from, so head
I
on
made
over
the
to
stickers.
Fnaf.store to take your pick at some neat products.
I
Please
made
buy
the
my merch.
stickers.
I'm very much in the red with this video because all the sponsors pulled out and I need your support. Okay, enough about me. Back to me, I guess.
Oh boy, fan games. I love your stickers. Woo! I love my stickers too. Thank you. I'm glad you like them.
When something gains a massive amount of popularity, obviously there's going to be a lot of copycats that are either heavily inspired by or straight up plagiarized content from the original concept. It's a tale as old as time and is something that is especially apparent in the indie horror game community. When Five Nights at Freddy's gained mass appeal and recognition, obviously people are going to look at the franchise and salivate. The mechanics that game brought to the table had never been done before, so obviously people are going to pounce on the game like they've just discovered sliced bread. And pounce they did, with thousands of fan games being created based on the popular property, each with varying degrees of quality, starting with Five Nights at McDonald's released in... Wait, it didn't release? It's just a concept? Then why is it in the script? The Fnaf phenomenon, Jesus Christ, try and say that quickly 4 times, became
Fnaf phenomenon. Fnaf. Fuck. I immediately fucked it up. I fucking played
so
video.
unbearably large that websites such as Game Jolt had to make a dedicated category on their site just for games inspired by
That's
Five
a
Nights
cute
at
sprite,
Freddy's,
by the way.
with people creating fan games to this day.
day.
Many websites and publications have listed almost all the ones that they can find, with numbers reaching into the thousands, most of the games on the list leading into dead links. But I'm mainly going to talk about the popular ones that really try to do their own thing among the many asset flips simply changing the PNG used to jump scare you, starting with Five Nights at Treasure Island was originally released sometime around 2014 and it's one of the first major fan games from the era. Created by Art in 1996, this game was also inspired by the Abandoned by Disney creepypasta. I mean, it does seem pretty obvious to go for that kind of premise considering there are several creepypastas and urban legends that exist on the internet about the mouse. The gameplay is similar to Fnaf, obviously, but instead of a pizzeria, you're stuck in an abandoned Disney resort named Treasure Island. And your goal is to defend yourself from what at first seems to be rogue costumes of Mickey Mouse that wander around the attraction.
I love
most
Epic
notably
Mickey.
Photo-Negative
Is it a good
Mickey,
game?
a variant of Mickey Mouse but with its scare factor cranked up to 10. Because his colors have been inverted! Similar to Springtrap, Photo-Negative Mickey is attracted by sound, so you're tasked with luring him away from your office by shutting off any camera, which would send Mickey there. Sounds easy enough, correct? Incorrect! Other characters can screw you over, like Disembodied, which is just a Donald Duck suit head with no brim. If he shows up in your room, he'll emit only the loveliest music to your ears.
I'm actually going to turn the volume down.
What you're supposed to do if this happens is shut off a camera that will cause him to disappear. The original version of the game, which was the demo released all the way back in 2014, was fairly janky however, as you could just go AFK the entire time and still beat the night. But going AFK didn't always save you. Similar to games like SCP Containment Breach, if you wait in the menu for too long because you're either too scared to start or you're a YouTuber trying to introduce people to the latest game you're playing today, the menu would do this as a reference to the Abandoned by Disney creepypasta.
Want to see my head come off?
The game had numerous bugs and wasn't exactly super polished, but over the years, several improvements to the game were made, culminating in a remake/reboot of the game released in 2020 by Radiant's team. This version of the game fleshed literally everything out from the original and included some incredibly polished graphics and improved models from the original game, with more characters created just for the game and areas such as the pirate caverns getting facelifts from the original game. The story also got elaborated on and had you play as Jake Smith, an intern working at the Supernatural Studies Association, getting sent over to Treasure Island to conduct some research.
Woo! It's been a while since we've had a shot.
The definitive way to play Five Nights at Treasure Island, and the devs even added special modes into the game such as Classic Mode, a one-to-one remake of the original 2014 game for nostalgia's sake. The success of this FNAF/creepypasta hybrid fan game also caused a surge in fan game crossovers, including Five Nights at the Krusty Krab was released on January 29th, 2015. Hey, that's my birthday. Developed by Dakota Wood, it places you in a brand new Krusty Krab that's open in Bikini Bottom. But this time, Mr. Krabs wants to keep as much money as possible, as all the staff in the brand new Krusty Krab are animatronic versions of the old employees that Mr. Krabs brought in to prevent paying salaries to his old employees. This game was made in the Unreal Engine, and you could really tell upon opening the game because you're greeted with the most generic UE4 menu, as well as the sheer amount of post-processing done around the place. It's like I'm watching an old Corridor Digital video. The gameplay itself is pretty much the same as FNAF in that you're routed entirely to the spot and you have to look through cameras to find each of the animatronics before they get into your office. But this game has one or two twists up its sleeve to prevent itself from being one big Unreal package of copyright infringement. In one of the cameras is a fuse room, and you're supposed to stop animatronics from entering that room too, as the lights may start flickering in your office and it could give them an in. All things said, the game was your generic FNAF fan game fare, until the developer made the sequel several months later titled Five Nights at the Chum Bucket. This game seriously ups the ante from the first game, and judging by the menu music, it seems we're heading to SpongeBob's funeral. This game provides more context to the story. In short, you've been kidnapped after the Krusty Krab burnt down, and now you're trapped in the Chum Bucket, a much more elaborate location than the Krusty Krab. And the guy on the phone wants to cover up the events of the first game by killing you in this one. But this time, your eyes have been sprinkled with several filters, as this game really pushes the post-processing on Unreal to maximum overdrive absolutely everywhere, which leads into one of my horror pet peeves, or HPP for short. It's something entirely irrational, but I've never liked it when first-person games, especially horror games, have random filters dropped on them as if the eyes are camera lenses. I mean, technically eyes are lenses in and of itself, but things like dust and lens flares and grain and sometimes even UI elements show up in some found footage games, with no proper detail as to the fact that the character's supposed to be carrying a camera. It happens in a few games and it does take me right out, but that's only a small pet peeve. Five Nights at the Chum Bucket is an improvement in almost every way to the original game, even down to the animatronic designs in this one, with SpongeBob looking like a complete Leopard 2A7 and Squidward looking like that. In the room itself, it makes use of an overdrive button that allows you to use more items in one go, as if you have both the doors shut, you're unable to use the cameras or the flashlight. The overdrive button mitigates this, but it runs on a cooldown when it's used.
Also, the phone on the desk shows a list of the developer supporters and even lists you at the end. That's adorable.
The important thing about this game is that this took Scott's original concept and showed that it could work in a fully rendered
your character has a camera overhead. I had an idea
for
a character like that
important for future games.
I like object heads.
Especially one that would take animatronics and put them in a fully free roam environment for you to run up against, and that's the Case Animatronics. Aha! You thought! Was released on August 3rd, 2016, and takes things in a completely different direction.
Dude, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that this was released, and then Case 2 came out. It's crazy to me that a second game came out after this fucking FNAF.
Yes, we are doing a time skip here. This game was essentially the developer's attempt to mix Outlast with Five Nights at Freddy's, and the results? A game. Definitely a game. Now, technically speaking, this isn't really a fan game, as the devs are very quick to correct people. It's loosely inspired by the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, and this game is different to the fan games we've covered in the lightning round thus far, as this one costs money. Even though it isn't much, this game actually costs more than the Five Nights at Freddy's games. So you'd think for approximately $10, you'd get yourself an extremely polished game out of it. Let's just get into the game. This game contains strong images and scenes of violence. How can an image be strong? Is it possible to learn this power? You useless pile of junk! Not appropriate for people with heart diseases and pregnant women. That's really specific. Well, at least
Yeah, why would pregnant women be playing case animatronics? Can I have an explanation, case devs?
the devs are looking out for all the pregnant women playing case animatronics. So in the game, you're playing as John Bishop, a police officer working for the Aurora Police Department. And let me just say, the voice acting in this game is definitely something else.
Looks like I fell asleep. Almost midnight.
Oh, the voice acting!
Strange. No one else should be here.
The original sin that man is responsible to. To protect the life cycle.
I have no idea what sort of direction the voice actors were given, but it certainly wasn't forwards.
What happened with the lights? Is this some kind of deja vu?
When you actually start playing the game, you're given a tablet that serves as the Fnaf half of the gameplay, where you use the tablet to look around the CCTV of the building to scout for any animatronics that are nearby. And after finding one with a code to unlock a door, you can go to that door and... Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the animatronics themselves, shall we? This game's firmly in a time capsule, as instead of the uncanny valley of any of the animatronics so far in this video entirely, this game takes the edginess and cranks it up to 300, as all of them are the edgiest things you'll ever see. The red eyes, the colorful language tatted onto the metal, the blood. They're not animatronics, they're just... evil robots. Funnily enough, there used to be a bear animatronic as part of the roster, but that ended up being removed because Scott himself struck them down with the full might of the DMCA. So he was replaced with a wolf. The rest of the game is a slog to get through, as all you're tasked with doing is going from point A to point B and collecting random notes and items that would advance the story and help you escape the police department.
Guys, help, I'm doing the idiot drunk smile.
The game tries to get you to
We're only 6 shots in.
But said stealth doesn't work most of the time when animatronics will just teleport around the place or glitch in and out of their own rectums. What? So, how you doing? The game also chastises you for dying, as when you get caught and vored by the animatronics, not only are your ears left bleeding, but the game tells you to try and hide better. And because of that, I am done with this garbage. But if you want to watch my struggles, a link will show up in the description and around here. So let's go to the other.
The one good thing about case animatronics is, goddamn, they do get the sound design right. With the one thing they get right is the sound design on the animatronics walking, because they're big hunky clunks of metal, and it's fucking, I don't know, I'm a sucker for that kind of sound design. Anyway.
The free roam game that actually is a FNAF fan game. The Joy of Creation was initially released on November 30th, 2015, but that game was cancelled by the developer mid-development to make way for The Joy of Creation Reborn in 2016. The initial version was similar in gameplay to another game named Boogeyman, in which you're supposed to shine a flashlight in several locations to prevent yourself from getting caught by the monsters in your own home. The game was fairly derivative, so the developer decided to take everything free roam. T-Jock R's FNAF and Slender mixed together to make a game in which you're tasked with collecting items in a set time period. I don't know why you need to collect things as random as a cap and wheels, but gameplay is gameplay at the end of the day. When the game was initially made, it didn't even have the option to look for items in a set time. All you were tasked with doing was evading the animatronics for as long as you could. And let me just say, the renditions of the original animatronics in these fan games are, in my opinion, some of the scariest. Each of the animatronics
are you sober yet? No.
Versions of the originals, and the developer did a good job in actually making them threatening and scary. Because as you'll find out later in the video, the animatronic designs go a long way with regards to making a game scary. This has also helped with the sound design and Joy of Creation. The animatronics are big mechanical things with lots of wires and machinery.
It gets worse from here.
And it seems like a lot of fan games and regular games seem to forego.
I'm so fucked, aren't I, Theft? It's over. It's over.
Really sound like they're broken versions of the originals, as the overbearingly loud footsteps and the mechanical whirring, especially on Freddy, really heighten the tension in T-Jock R. It really seems like these animatronics are big, and there's a reason to be afraid of them. I know earlier I mentioned that there's such a thing as trying too hard to make the design scary, especially during but I think the Joy
move the trash can closer to me then.
Actually creepy designs. Back to the game itself, and T-Jock R plays similar to your typical Slender fare like I said before, but this time you're stuck in a house in Houston, Texas, and the animatronics are let loose in different areas of the house. I mean, at this point it's not even a house, it's a mansion. Even for American standards, the rent on this must be ridiculous. What job do we have that pays for a house this big. On the menu, you have each of the animatronics waiting politely outside the door in the rain for you to let them in. And on each mode, you're tasked with collecting separate items in a set time period. If you don't collect them in a set amount of time, then you failed the objective. But instead of an instant jump scare or sending you back to the menu, you just get put on free roam and you're free to walk around the house until an animatronic comes to vibe check you. Whoa, hang about, I'm starting over. Yeah, in a weird design choice, each time you die, you instantly respawn back to the start of the level, regardless of if you've completed it or not. And you have to loop the entire level again until you get killed, which would be a huge issue depending on the animatronics mechanics. Foxy and Chica both have unique mechanics in that Foxy will trail you until he makes a sound and his eyes light up. Once that happens, you only have a few seconds reaction time to look behind you with your flashlight and stun him. However, if you look at him for too long with the flashlight, he'll get aggressive and instantly kill you. Now bear in mind that each time you die, both you and Foxy spawn in the same place at the same time in the same attic.
No, you
and
didn't,
you will
Alistair.
find that death will become extremely common as you play. Same with Ignited Chica. Her level is a blatant ripoff of Slender, as she's in a forest and will constantly trail you. But looking at her for too long will cause her to get aggressive and instantly peck you to death. This game also has another one of my HPPs, as it's made on the Unreal Engine and does the typical post-processing bloom and grain effects to add to the dark and gritty nature of the game. But materials and eyes don't work like that! Now, T-Jock R didn't have much story to it, with nothing really bridging each night. That is until 2017, when Nixon released the Joy of Creation story mode.
Here we
This
go,
is probably the
story
fan game I'm going to
mode.
spend the longest talking about, because I feel like this one
I
also
love
provides a
Joy
major
of Creation
blueprint for
story
some of the
mode.
future mainline games moving forward. Story mode
Not
basically
necessarily,
combined all the
Sammy.
gameplay features of the original game and Reborn, and mashed them all together under one long narrative. Set in an alternate reality on the second anniversary of the first FNAF game, you actually play as Scott Cawthon and his family, and in the menu you're greeted with 5 levels, or forgotten memories as the game likes to go by. Before you actually load into the main menu, you get some story context. The narrator of the story is Nick, Scott's son, and he's trying to remember all the events that occurred several years prior that ruined his life. And it's at this point that I should probably mention that the voice acting in this game, in a single word, not good.
This is the story of the night I lost my home.
Okay.
My childhood.
Okay.
And almost my family.
Wow.
When Five Nights at Freddy's just ended.
I'm not going to knock the voice actors because I'm sure they did try, and they are nowhere near as bad as in case
No, they're
animatronics.
definitely
But
not
this
as
game
bad.
does suffer from some of the corniest writing in a horror
does
game.
have a
And
very
corny is
strange
good
story.
sometimes, but the way this game goes about its story sounds like the writers wrote
Guys,
it while listening
Duke
to
is here.
Evanescence on
Say hi to
repeat the
Duke,
entire
chat.
time. Anyways, the story instantly takes a turn for the stupid when Scott finds a guy called Michael suddenly in his house and lets him stay. No, Nick convinces Scott to let a complete stranger stay in their household. If I saw a complete stranger end up in my house with no explanation, the game would have ended 5 seconds in. After that setup, you're then free to play through each of the memories in the game. The first level's the bedroom, and you play as Nick as a baby, and you're tasked with fending off 4 animatronics that show up around your room for 6 whole hours. Please remember that you are a literal zygote, and you have to listen to Michael on the phone, who will tell you how to evade each of the animatronics in question. You sick, sick man, you Nixon. Credit where credit is due. One thing that this game does extremely well is combine the FNAF gameplay that we're all really familiar with the free roaming aspect of T-Jock R. This keeps the game incredibly fresh, as each memory has completely different game mechanics that would keep you on your feet so you don't get used to the way the game works like the mainline FNAF games. In the bedroom, you're rooted to the spot in your bed, and being the athletic baby that we are, we have to move around the crib, closing the curtains if you see Freddy through the window, turning on the lights to check in on your sanity, and pretending to fall asleep if Bonnie or Chica get into the room. The second memory in the living room spices things up a little more, in which this time you have to rely on the television screen to pause Freddy and Foxy, but you can only pause one at a time. The technology in the Cawthon household is out of this world, because this television has constant live footage from Freddy and Foxy, and you're supposed to hide when one of them enters. It becomes a game of timing their arrival, because as the night progresses, they get faster and can catch you off guard if you don't time things right. Bonnie can't be stopped, however, and you have to listen to his moans from outside.
Wait, that came out wrong.
If Bonnie opens the main doors and sees you, he will vibe check you with what is
I love this. Who's ready? Who's ready, chat?
Jump scare in any FNAF game, fan game or not.
Fucking Bonnie punch.
He completely totals you. He's absolutely a certified woman beater. He threw that punch like you shagged his best mate. The next memory, The Office, puts you in Scott's gamer setup and you have to survive the night while all the animatronics are desperately trying to get in and attack you. Also, I always found the cutscene before this level hilarious because the camera is all shaky and then you're given 3 monitors to look outside and look for Foxy, where he'll get angry at you for staring at him. If Freddy is there though, you're supposed to go to that specific area and flash him.
Because Freddy really likes to be flashed.
Sometimes Chica will try and wriggle through the wall and cupcakes will spawn, forcing you to have to look everywhere for about 3 or 4 cupcakes before she despawns. A lot of you watching this part of the video are probably extremely confused as to why I'm talking about this game in so much detail. And the simple answer is that the mechanics in this game serve as huge foreshadowing to the future of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, especially in the move to a more free-roaming gameplay loop. And it's the next section of story mode where you'll see this a lot as endoskeletons are brought into the plot. That rhyme was planned. The basement memory is arguably one of the creepiest sections of any FNAF related game, and in this level you play as Michael. From a pure gameplay standpoint, the scare factor of the endoskeletons are heightened by the fact that you can't get near to them, and you must look at them at all times, because looking away will cause them to move. It's such a simple design choice that heightens the tension because there's some moments in the game where you're going to have to look away to do things like unlock doors or inspect walls. And the sound designs that come with the endoskeletons are top tier, coupled with the fact that you see them move at inhuman speeds, and sometimes just hearing them is enough to increase the tension. This game does fall victim to the rage game syndrome, especially in this section, as the lack of tutorials really make you bait to some obnoxious jump scares. I should probably mention now that most, if not all, of the fan games in this section of the video were played on stream, and you can watch either uncut footage of them on my channel or on my second channel.
Don't talk about
the Joy
it.
Of Creation story mode ends at the attic, and this level is the closest to the original FNAF in terms of gameplay, as you have to keep tabs on a large animatronic simply named Creation, who will slowly make his way up to you, and you have to fend him off by flashing him. And there are endoskeletons and even Golden Freddy himself roaming around the cameras. The story itself does get a little bit confusing, and it's definitely hard to take the dark and gritty tone of the game seriously, especially with regards to the voice acting and some of the writing. But I do appreciate that this game was really consistent with the withered imagery that came with these specific renditions of the popular animatronics. I really didn't want to go into so much detail about the game mechanics and plot, but I think the Joy of Creation story mode is arguably one of the most well-rounded fan games to come from this era, and it proved to be influential as well, as the game's high view count on game coupled with the mechanics of the game being used in future games also puts this specific free fan game on a huge pedestal over the others. But I've been talking about this specific game for way too long, so let's get back to the lightning round! Five Nights at Candy's was released in 2015 and is the first of multiple games in its franchise. Developed by Emil Mako, Candy's uses almost exactly the same
It's been a while,
Fnaf.
Where's all the question marks?
But this time you're in a new restaurant called Candy's Burgers and Fries. What makes this game unique from the others is that this game treats the original Scott Cawthon games as canon, instead of simply just copying the homework and making 100% sure not to make it look obvious. Candy's uses the official story to influence its gameplay. Gameplay is similar to the Five Nights at Freddy's games, but with two key differences. One, there are no lights whatsoever because the FFCMO has also infected this game with a vengeance. So to assist you throughout the game, all the cameras have night vision so you can actually see the animatronics in question. And two, there is another door right in the middle of the office that can be closed to prevent other animatronics from entering the room. Similar to the first FNAF game, using any of the doors can overcharge the battery for the entire building. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous at this point. Surely generators were in fashion back in the day. Why does closing a door have to be mechanical? Just use a regular
Guys, I
door
forgot
at
I
this
was
point.
yellow and I thought
Similarly,
something was wrong with my
night vision
monitor.
Takes up power. So the game makes things fair by having the animatronics' eyes glow in the dark in any room that they're in, with the exception of this demonic entity named who has no eyes, forcing you to use night vision. And if any of the animatronics are at the door, you won't get any warning other than 2 white dots in the darkness, which you might dismiss as your graphics card acting weird.
That scared the shit out of me.
Oh. The game ended up getting a facelift with Five Nights at Candy's Remastered, which improved the visuals, gave more accessibility options such as auto-scrolling, and fleshed the story out a bit by changing the script of each of the phone calls to make things a little more concise. This game also spawned a mini franchise as it got sequels developed fairly quickly. Five Nights at Candy's 2 took the game mechanics of FNAF 2 and FNAF 3 and mixed them together.
Wait, I just realized something, guys. Oh my fucking god. I know how they got the fucked up texture on on the candy. Okay, do you see like the dents in his face? It's a procedural map in Substance Painter. You can do it in 5 seconds. I know how to do that. That's really funny.
In that game, you play as Marilyn Schmidt. Hang on a second. That's the same.
God damn it! Cheers.
Surname is the geezer from the first Fnaf game. Are they related?
Oh,
the
jump
game
scared
takes
me.
place in a factory containing broken versions of the animatronics from the first game, and you think
We're
to yourself,
over halfway
Why
through.
in the hell would I even consider for a second to spend 1 night there, let alone 5?
And the answer is simple. Lose a bet! And that's how you end up in the factory. The game mechanics in this one are pretty straightforward for the most part. The animatronics will wander to your location, but you can ward them off by prank calling phones in a room that's far away from you. Similar to using audio cues to lure Springtrap away in the third Fnaf game. Obviously, the animatronics will get angry at the tomfoolery you're committing and destroy the phones temporarily. But you can enter a gameplay loop where you just lead them between both rooms and play ping pong with calling the animatronics to the room and back again. It makes the game so gosh darn easy. I never understood what the complaining was about. If the animatronics do eventually find you, all you're tasked with doing is flashing them in the hallway and prank calling them elsewhere so they leave. All in all, this is where the franchise was starting to really find itself and establish its own identity. So Five Nights at Candy's 3 took all of these mechanics and threw them out the window. Fnac 3 is an entirely different experience to the other games in the series, channeling their inner Fnaf 4 and really putting the all-important lore to the test. This game serves as a prequel to the first 2 games and has you play as Marilyn again, but younger. And now she has to defend herself from what's been dubbed Monster Rat and Monster Cat. No idea how a record label can be so scary. Using your flashlight, you have to fend the animatronics off and shine in their eyes to cause them to leave the room. And sometimes you're tasked with looking under your bed to lure them away with your tape recorder. In between each night are a ton of mini-games and cutscenes set in a dreamscape environment, and like FNAF 3, they advance the story and provide more context as to why Marilyn is so attached to the animatronics in the Candy
It's really
franchise.
basic in
I kinda
gameplay.
skimmed
I've
through
never
all of
played
the
them.
games, but with a 4th game on the way, Five Nights at Candy stands
There's a
on its
4th
own
game?
as a fan-made spin-off to the
forgot.
main Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, as it took what was essentially almost a carbon copy of the original games and shuffled the mechanics around to give 3 highly enjoyable and creepy games in their own right. So that was enjoyable, right? Covered 3 whole games in a short amount of time. See, I told you, lightning round. Remember how I mentioned a few moments ago about the prospect of staying in a factory for 1 night on your own? Well, for those of you guys who like those staying overnights in a restaurant
50 decades to
boy,
come
do
out,
I have
really?
a game for you. One Night at Flumpty's was released in 2015, and this game does something entirely different to any of the fan games shown thus far, which has embraced the Adobe Flash aesthetic. All of the assets in the game are hand-drawn.
I love One Night at Flumpty's!
Consistently bleak environment that you'll be staying in. This game takes the mechanics of FNAF and condenses them into only 1 night. And you'd assume since it's 1 night, the game would be ridiculously easy since the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games. But the game does have a few tricks up its sleeve to prevent the nights from becoming complete snooze fests. Firstly, the game has progressive difficulty. The longer into the night you survive, the harder it will get. There's also absolutely no phone guy in this game either, so you're tasked with finding out how each of the mechanics work yourself, which will make the first few playthroughs of this game absolute agony trying to figure out how each of the many characters in this game work. And lastly, the main antagonist of the game, Flumpty himself, seems to be self-aware as he's immune to the plot and can transcend time and space, because that's totally fair. This also plays into the plot of the game, in which instead of being a complete weapon and going to a place like this of your own volition, Flumpty simply kidnapped you and forced you on a night of perilous clicking with all of his friends. Apart from that though, the game plays almost exactly the same as FNAF, so there's not much to write home about. The game ended up getting 2 sequels, the first and more popular one being One Night at Flumpty's 2, which was the game to make this game stand out from the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, as this time, you have multiple different characters to keep tabs on and a brand new exposure meter. To ward away the characters that move around the complex, you're tasked with turning the lights off to stop them from seeing you in the office, which is filled with lovely visuals such as a Freddy nose you can honk, a bunch of toy blocks spelling out Eid, and a flayed case of of copyright infringement that stares at you sometimes when you put down your monitor. Turning off the lights doesn't sort out all the issues, as you have to watch out for an owl that can travel through the vents and can still get to you even if the lights are off. So make sure you've closed the right vent or else you're in trouble. Hilariously though, because of the game's mechanics, it becomes borderline unplayable at higher refresh rates, as the animation doesn't even have time to register before you get jump scared. Upon completing the night, you also get a chance to try out a brand new hard-boiled mode, in which the character's difficulties are cranked up to 392,917%, and you need to have your own reflexes on check or else they'll tear your face off. How pleasant. One Night at Flumpty's 2 is genuinely one of the most well-rounded and arguably scariest fan games that spawned from Fnaf, as it managed to successfully translate most of the mechanics into a polished 2D environment, complete with detailed and well-drawn animations for almost every character in the game. It's just a damn shame that the games were developed by a piece of shit. So I've talked about some somewhat original Fnaf fan games, right? Well, obviously, as is custom for any game that gets extremely popular, it's going to get some cheaper knockoffs with popular brands, such as Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese's was also one of the first fan games created, being released around February 2015. And you'd think that that one would be incredibly easy to make, as the entire concept of Five Nights at Freddy's itself stemmed from the uncanny valley nature of the mascots and the animatronics at the CEC. And the game was indeed pretty easy to make. But it looked terrible. So in 2021, Radiant's team, the same developer behind the reboot of Treasure Island, worked on a remake of the game, which took the uncanny valley of the mascots and turned it into an uncanny continent. Jesus Christ, why is the office so terrifying? Five Nights at Thomas's puts you in charge of managing Thomas the Tank Engine. I literally don't even know what you're supposed to do other than shove coal inside a furnace, because every time I play the game for literal seconds, I get greeted with... But the developers have made expansions and sequels to the game that have improved upon the mechanics and made them a little more easier to manage. Five Nights at
Thomas Sweet.
A bit ridiculous. In what world would there be fully functional animatronics in an anime convention? In what practical way would you want to have robots instead of staff members?
This is the most replayed part of the video, by the way.
Oh, shit.
Voiced by Buff Pup.
You're not supposed to be here. This place is officially outbound. Did you read the sign? What you're doing is against the rules. I'm gonna have to ask you that.
Okay, I get your point. The gameplay is similar to your typical FNAF game, but instead of scary animatronics, you get jump scared by...
She caught the bullet,
They
yeah.
don't even sound like robots, and it doesn't even sound like the night guards having a bad time. Obviously, because of the subject matter, this became prone to a lot of clones being made even to this day. And most of the time, it's not even worth playing the games properly, as people are only really in it for the jump scares. That being said, there are at least some versions of the game that at least don't go into Kuma territory, like a 2019 remake of the game that is literally just the original FNAF game, but more polished and with the model switched out. Is that the Fortnite fonts? And that concludes the fan game section of the video. Admittedly, there's so many fan games and covering them all would take ages, but I think I'm pretty satisfied with the output.
Oh, this guy, right? He's claimed to have combed through so many of these stupid little fan games, yet managed to forget basically one of the most influential of them all. Give me a second, I'm gonna heave. Listen, man, let me handle this for you, yeah?
Wait, hang on. How did you get here? You should not be here right now.
You left your Premiere project open, stupid. I thought I'd edit over it a bit, lol.
How did you get access to my Adobe account?
Chill, dog, relax. I'm not gonna do anything. I just wanted to show you the game you missed. The people in the comments will probably get super pissed over if you don't show it.
Okay, but you've got 25 seconds. What's the game anyway?
Five Nights at Boys.
Oh yeah, I did forget about that one. Wait, hang
on!
on!
So anyway, this thing's an RPG Maker game dropped hot off the release of the first couple FNAF games that I'd talk about for longer if YouTube's monetization rules weren't so...
No! We cannot do this! We have to pull the plug! So there you have it. A multitude of fan games with varying degrees of quality that all spawned from what was just 4 mainline Five Nights at Freddy's games.
I'm having fun. I don't know about you guys.
Understatement to just how much
but maybe that's because
I'm
feeling funny.
To this day, there are thousands of fan games to cover, and if I covered them all, this video would be another 3 hours longer than it's supposed to be. The fan game wave became so popular that Scott himself decided that he wanted to assist the people that ripped off his game mechanics the best. But that's also something I'm going to talk about later in the video. That's a lot of payoffs I'm gonna have to deliver, my god. If you want to see my experiences playing through these fan games, I'm going to continue plugging my second channel, link in the description. But now it's time to go back to the main franchise in question, as after this wave of fan games, Scott decided to return to making Five Nights at Freddy's games, and the next game in the series turned out to be a game changer for the franchise, for better and for worse.
Is this the game I think it is? No, it's Sister Location. I fucking hate Sister Location! Sister Location is such a dog-ass game. I'm gonna say it. It's my least favorite in the entire series.
Sister Location was released on October 7th, 2016, and this marked a significant franchise shift for Scott and his band, as this is where Fnaf started to move more into the science fiction genre.
Yeah, well, for me, I don't do commissions.
Yes, you can argue that the shift to
Not
science
for
fiction started with the third game, but I think this game is a more significant push in that direction, and that can be immediately seen in the menu of the game. The animatronic designs in Sister Location seem a lot more technically advanced than any of the games prior, implying a time skip of some sort from the previous games to this one. It's kind of clear from the start that Scott wanted this game to be almost entirely different from the original quadrilogy, where aside from a few mechanical differences and gimmicks, the games all revolved around preventing the animatronics from getting to your comfort zone and committing acts that are not good. All in all, this game marked a brand new era for Fnaf in a brand new location. But did this game succeed?
Look, I'm gonna say it. I fucking hate Circus Baby. I can't stand Circus Baby. Oh my fucking god, I can't stand her. Ballora is also dog shit. The only one I can kind of get behind is Funtime Foxy and maybe Funtime Freddy, but nah, they're all ass.
Successfully pushed the franchise in this new direction. I guess we'll find out. Upon opening the game for the very first time, you immediately get launched into a cutscene where it looks like an interview is taking place about an animatronic on screen which is known simply as Circus Baby. You can immediately see that the vibes for this game are very different to the previous games in the franchise, as from this game onward, voice acting becomes extremely important in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise moving forward. In the older games, all the voice work was relegated to just the phone calls at the beginning of each night. And the fourth game didn't even have any voice acting. Fnaf World was probably the litmus test to see whether people would like voice acting moving forward in the Fnaf franchise, and the decision seems to have been made, the results of which will be debatable moving forward. Most importantly though, the game marks yet another turn in the Fnaf franchise by putting the plot front and center. The previous games weren't really upfront about the plot, at least the first two games certainly weren't, requiring you to have some NCIS, ISCSI, ISCSIS knowledge to zoom in and enhance details in the environment that give you clues as to what the story is about. But with the introduction of voice-acted cutscenes, even with the limited animation, Sister Location is the game that Scott finally decided to make the lore of the franchise make even remotely sense. As judging from the revelations in Fnaf 4, things are getting confusing. So back to the cutscene, and after describing Circus Baby's features, the interviewer mentions that those weren't the features he was referring to, calling the interviewee by their name.
Those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
Judging by the conversation...
I heard it. It showed up behind me, didn't it? Where did that show up? Yeah, it showed up right there. It was behind me. Cheers.
Judging by the conversation that was just had, he's the creator of the animatronics in this game, and clearly he must be a villain since he sports a British accent. And everyone knows that British people are all inherently evil. Most people playing through this game would have no idea who this Afton fellow is. And this is where the Corpse Party syndrome kicks in, as you're now expected to look into things outside of the games to be clued in on whatever the lore's supposed to be. So let me take you back a little bit. Before the release of Sister Location, I've already mentioned how big the Fnaf franchise is, with games, fan games, music, parodies, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, and books. If there was
the 9 shot? Did I miss?
People were invested.
What do you mean? Did I miss one? Did I miss one? When did I miss one? Did I miss one? I didn't miss one. Fuck you.
It was the lore, and you can clearly see that many were trying to piece together the puzzle, with creators like Matrick Patrick making videos theorizing where the lore is going. And to be honest, Really wasn't going anywhere. Scott was obviously making things up as he went along, as things were retconned or changed to completely shut down some of the fan speculation. I can imagine him in his office just going, let me make the stupidest, most convoluted story ever and see how
Me when I missed the fully transparent and silent video
between
clip.
the production of FNAF World and Sister Location, he worked on a book adaptation of Five Nights at Freddy's titled The Silver Eyes, released in December 2015 on the Kindle. Do people even use Kindle?
Oh shit! Oh Jesus Christ, I'm exploding. Oh my god. This is a terrible screen for this. Thank you for the subs. I appreciate it, Boxcar. I appreciate you. 153.21. I just took that shot. The one that appears behind me in the corner, real tiny. I just took that shot just now. It was at 7. We were at 7.
Book is your typical horror mystery novel, with a bunch of children returning back to their hometown many years after a terrible event to recall some creepy happenings at Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria. Oh. I was reading the wrong book. The story itself doesn't really expand on the lore of the franchise. Actually, there's some facts in the book that
Sammy, you say that the books ruined the lore more than Scott did. Scott wrote the fucking books, Sammy.
The facts in the game or something like that. It's complicated and weird. The one thing that's important and is linked back to the games, especially moving forward,
all
is
of
the name
them
revealed in the books who is shown to be the owner and creator of the animatronics. Dave Miller! Wait, that's a fake name. William Afton!
There it is.
The books go on to explain that Afton was the primary suspect in the murders of some children 10 years before the events of the book, but no evidence could be found against him. This implies that he was the purple guy that minced all the animatronics in the cutscenes in the third game. And now you see all the dots beginning to connect. Like I said before, fans weren't happy with the revelations in this book because it seemed to contradict what was being said in the games. So Scott decided to inhale some copium hydrate and classified this book as a reimagining of the FNAF story. Oh yeah, I forgot. The Silver Eyes is the first book in a trilogy of FNAF books set in a separate canon, and all of them were adapted into graphic novels a few years later, but we're going a little too far here. Don't we have a game we should be talking about? So with this newfound knowledge, you jump right into the game and begin your shift, and this first night serves as your exposition night to your new job at Not Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Before the night begins, however, you get a few lines of exposition. Judging by the Britishness of the accent, eagle-eyed... No, wait. What's an animal with good hearing? Wait one sec. Okay. Pigeon-eared viewers would clock that this girl may or may not be Mr. Afton's daughter. But there's no time to waste. Your shift is begun.
I'm back. How's it going?
Woo! Jumping you immediately into your security guard shift where you just sit down looking at cameras while scranning pizza all damn night. You're dropped into the jankiest elevator of all time and you have to start listening to your phone guy for the game.
Welcome to the first day of your exciting new career.
Guys, I almost just was about to say something really stupid, and I realized, I was like, man, I should go get McDonald's after this. No, I fucking shouldn't. I'm not getting my car.
Whether you were approached at a job fair, read our ad, and
I had a moment
and
for a second,
or if this is the result
where I forgot I was
dare,
drinking.
We welcome you.
You'll be extremely
I've been in my house
with this
too long.
voice moving forward, as it's a huge franchise feature from this game onward. This voice is simply named Hand Unit, and he's your nursery teacher for the day, as he only exists to get you started on your job in a much more mechanical and less personal way than the guy on the phone in FNAF's 1 to 3. I mean, I guess it does make sense, it being your first day and all, but one of my pet peeves with this game is that you don't really get any form of independence as a character. Everything seems to be handed to you on a plate that has a gaping hole down the middle. After an introduction from Hand Unit, you're given a keypad that's definitely manufactured by Samsung, and you're supposed to type in your name to begin your day. Hold on, Mike? From the first game? He must be strapped for cash! There's no conceivable reason why you'd make the conscious choice to return to a place that's almost the same place as the other place that literally tried to kill you! There has to be an explanation. We're not that stupid. After the revelation that whoever we're playing as seems to have a similar name to the security guard in the first game, we're then introduced to another landmark that's also front and center from this game onward. Humor. This doesn't mean to say there weren't some gallows humor in the previous games, but FNAF World seemed to be the blueprint for the rest of the series, as the self-aware humor takes center stage in the writing. From Hand Unit assuming you could have taken this dangerous job as part of a dare, to everything in the opening segment of the game being so broken and buggy, leading into the greatest and funniest joke to grace the horror game industry.
It seems that you had some trouble with the keypad. I see what you were trying to type, and I will auto-correct it for you. One moment. Welcome, Eggs Benedict.
This game also attempts to be more experimental.
Wait, Thaf, are you still here? Thaf, I got a question. Why did you never include reference to the exotic butters thing? Wasn't that huge? Why did you never reference that? I was curious. I meant to ask. Can't be asked. Respect it. Thank you, because I'm fucking tired of that joke.
Elements than just moving your mouse around and clicking things on the screen. Now you can actually move. Kind of. Apparently this game was conceived before the creation of the X-axis because you can only really move forward and that's it. You can't move back. But now we're crawling through
Zaku,
the
I'm gonna ban you.
Pre-assigned tasks, and we're also given some more exposition. This time it's about the company itself, and we're told that almost immediately after Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria closed down, a void was left in the industry of animatronics with questionable backgrounds. So that was filled by the new company we're working at, named Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental. And to avoid making the same mistakes that Freddy made, the animatronics can be rented out for private parties during the day.
It sounds like an average day in VR chat.
But now you've been given all this knowledge, it's time to put it all to the test with your first and only task of the day, checking if the animatronics are in good
Damn, I thought you loved me. I do love you, no!
They are not. So in order to get them working, we have to administer a controlled shock, or the actual way of putting it, electrocuting them. Well, at least some remnants of the old Freddy buildings are still there because Jesus breakdancing Cristiano, this place is cursed. I feel like there's someone just staring into my heart. Why does this control room look like the interior of a goddamn UFO? And why are these heads just blinking slowly? I hate this job.
Okay, honey.
Okay, let's start talking about the animatronics now, shall we? Because it's an entirely new location, for the first time, we're dealing with animatronics that aren't the original four that you've all come to know and
Guys, I think I'm drunk. I have bad news. I think I'm drunk because I'm having trouble, like, literally focusing on the video, so I need you all to fucking, like, yell at me and spam the chat if you see a question mark and for whatever reason I don't react to it. Okay, thank you.
love so far in this motion picture. And since all of them have entirely different mechanics you have to become acquainted to, I can't talk about them as quickly as I did the originals. But one thing they all have in common is that they're all referred to as Funtime animatronics, and they are all highly upgraded versions of the original animatronic designs from the original era. Scott must have channeled his inner iOS 6 because almost all the Funtime animatronics have a glossy feel to them, as opposed to the rough and gritty feel the original animatronics had. The endoskeletons in each of these animatronics are a hell of a lot more elaborate than before, and Sister Location loves to display that fact, as jump scares make a resounding return in the games, and quite a lot of the animatronics love to open up their models to show their skeletons beneath. In Sister Location, the franchise mantle that Freddy held has been passed over to Circus Baby, who seems to be the main animatronic of this new group. While the original animatronics were kind of old and busted, these modern versions signal a tonal shift away from straight up horror, which I think is entirely understandable, but it also raised some concerns about how the franchise would be taken in future games. After going through several rooms and giving out free electrocutions to each of the Funtime animatronics in question, you head on over to Circus Control, which is where Circus Baby is, and to the surprise of a grand total of 0 people, giving out a controlled shock actually doesn't work this time, as Circus Baby doesn't return to the stage, despite Hand Unit claiming otherwise. But your shift is done!
Woo!
As was custom in every FNAF game,
I'm trying so hard.
Over, you'd immediately get transported to the next day. But in a revolutionary twist to the tale, you can now go home. I know, that's crazy. And you can actually watch the telly. Nothing more to say about this. It's just a television show called The Immortal and the Restless. And it's about a vampire who claims that the baby that his human wife has given birth to isn't his. Sounds like a trip to Mari is in order. The second night of your job begins, and in another twist, the gameplay's actually different this time. Yes, in order to keep things fresh for each night, as opposed to just clicking through cameras faster in the same monotonous way, each night employs a new gameplay mechanic in order to keep you on edge and force you to adapt to it. And the next mechanic starts immediately into your shift, as you're given new instructions from Circus Baby that contradict everything that Hand Unit has told you so far. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this specific aspect of the game, as Circus Baby's voice lines all exist to just dump lore onto you in quick succession, and hold your hand as you go through each of the tasks, which removes quite a lot of the horror of the unknown that FNAF was known for to begin with. It's not too egregious to start with, but it is a pet peeve I have with the game. Returning to the shift, and the FFCMO has also infected this game too, as your electrocution button has malfunctioned, and the power must be shut down so that hand unit can repair it. But since the power is off, all the animatronics have free roam to mess with you, so Circus Baby tells you to hide under the desk in front of you and begin gameplay mechanic number 2. Close the panel in front of you and hide, as smaller animatronics named Biddy Babs are looking for you and will peer inside the panel if they notice you, which they will. Your first—
Okay, here's a question. Right? All these animatronics are supposed to be made so they can be rented out at, like, birthday parties and shit, right? So why are there, like, 15 fucking Biddy Babs that they made? Why did they make those? What was the point?
First trial is made clear. Prevent them from opening the panels, whatever the cost. The Biddy Babs, why are they called Biddy Babs? Will attempt to open the panel twice to get to you, and you're supposed to just click the area of the panel used to shut it in the first place and force the panel closed, which should in theory be an easy task because they're literal babies. Just volley them top bins. Alas, the task is not so simple, as the controls in this part are intentionally
babies
and force you to slowly
it's
close
weird.
the panel again. Failure to do so will of course land you a jump scare. What did I say? But if you successfully fend off the Biddy Babs, your shift isn't over yet, as you're sent to the Ballora Gallery to begin gameplay mechanic number 3. This mechanic brings back everyone's favorite feature from FNAF 4, and has you rely on sound to move from one end of the gallery to the other. The twist being that it's pitch black, and if you hear Ballora's music, you're supposed to stop moving. Circus Baby tells you to move really slowly, so as not to move.
Biddy Babs is such a stupid name. True.
Position. But the building has other plans, because if you take too long...
It seems you are taking a long time.
Despite hand unit's helpful advice, simply moving forward and stopping when you hear noises is the best option for you, which will send you to the breaker room to begin gameplay mechanic number 4. There are several offline systems around the complex, and your job is to now reboot them all. However, your next opponent is Funtime Freddy, who will be on a stage to begin with, but slowly approaching you each time you make just a singular decibel of noise, which is displayed in the danger level on the top right corner of the screen. The third game's mechanics are brought into the mix here, as to ward him off, you must play audio to trick him into thinking that there's absolutely nothing wrong. From then on, the rest of the shift involves you having to constantly ward Freddy off while attempting to reload the power in the complex, which is displayed in a diagram next to the restart buttons. Eagle-eyed players may notice some extra sections on the outskirts of the complex, and if you look very closely, you may be able to notice that the layouts shown on each of these extra sections are almost identical to the layout of the big-ass house from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, implying this game and its characters could be linked in more ways than one to the events that caused death by... After restarting every system in the complex, your shift is done for the day. Give yourself a pat on the back. But before you give yourself a pat on the back, humble yourself. You're asked to go back the way you came to end your shift, which is a little weird. The game didn't really make you do this before, so maybe something's going to happen if we go back through the gallery.
Guys, I just realized you can't see it. Guys, I'm gonna show you this. I think I'm drunk because you guys can't see it because it's off screen, but I actually added a B to the end of this fucking number count for some reason, so you're welcome for that. I just thought you would all appreciate my letter B.
Bit. B. Okay. Night 3 puts you against Freddy again, but before we get to that, a new challenger appears, and it's Funtime Foxy. The most annoying animatronic mechanic to get used to in the older games returns with a hunger to ruin your sanity. As similar to the previous night, you're tasked with crossing one area to the other, but with two key differences. Uno. The area in question is not Ballora Gallery, but it's simply the Funtime Auditorium. Obviously. And dos, Funtime Foxy's mechanic works similar to Foxy's mechanic in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Because the audium is modern and sleek, Foxy has motion activation, and this contradicts what you're supposed to do, which is walk from one end to the other, since Foxy will just make a beeline towards you if you make a move. So how do you deal with this robot animal? So after flashing Funtime Foxy for a frightening flock of femtoseconds, you're directed to gameplay mechanic number ampersand, named Parts and Service. This mechanic is one of the best and the worst mechanics in the entire game at the same time. And you can tell this mechanic was cherished by Fnaf fans because it's reused over and over again in future games. Instead of preventing the animatronics from ever reaching you, as is custom for all the Fnaf games up to this point, now you're up and close and really personal with one of them. And no better candidate for your love and tender care than Funtime Freddy. This part of the game is where the hand holding starts to get a little bit egregious. For good reason though, as you'll soon find out. But at this point, Hand Unit will now give you specific directions to follow to perform some maintenance on Funtime Freddy's endoskeleton. Around Freddy himself are several buttons that you need to press in the right order. And the game also tests your listening comprehension, as it will attempt to catch you out for not listening to instructions carefully.
Locate the small button on Freddy's face, just under his right cheek, and press it.
If you weren't paying attention, or you failed geography, or directions are just that
Me who
confusing,
got this
you'd probably
wrong.
go to your right for the instruction.
Like
but
thinking
that
about
is
it.
incorrect.
I know, go.
Hand Unit is
Fuck you.
specifically referring to Freddy's right cheek, meaning that it's on your left. I feel like an English teacher.
Okay, I hate Fnaf for this video because I was there when he was editing this fucking thing, and he was like, what if I just added random Windows noises throughout the video? And I was like, dude, that's so funny, you should do that. And now they're still and now that I'm fucking stupid, and now I'm getting got, and I'm mad about it.
Shit. After pressing all the buttons, which are admittedly a little hard to see, what with the game's engine making all the images look like they were made on GIMP, the endoskeleton will open with a sound that damn near burst my eardrums when it happened. Look at the wavelength in my editing program. This is ridiculous. Hand
You're
Unit
always
will
doing
give you more
fuck
instructions
you,
until
Sam.
you're asked to
Suck
do one
my
more thing.
nuts.
Retrieve the power module from Bon Bon, who
I
is
can't
hiding from you
flip
the
you off
entire
this already.
time. This is when the frustration
There we
may
go.
start
Fuck
to
you.
settle, as if you take too long, you will be jump scared, sending you all the way back to the beginning of the night. But Bon Bon doesn't make things easy, because if any light even breathes on him, he quickly disappeared. And now it's just a game of aim lab, but you've been sitting on your arm for 20 days beforehand. And you've also got Parkinson's. If you end up actually clicking Bon Bon's button, you've won! The shift is complete. You can head on down the auditorium to go and watch your telly and scran some popcorn. You've earned this break. Let's head over to the exit.
She can make balloons.
Oh my god, can she? No. Dumb bitch. Fucking stupid kid.
With absolutely no transition at all, you're shoved into what is, in my opinion, the worst night of the job. Night 4, and get introduced to whatever gameplay mechanic number we're at now. I've lost count. In order to keep things fresh, we've been shoved inside a Springlock suit, and after some lore monologue from Circus Baby and some loud noises, the challenge
Damn it,
begins.
Glue.
On either side of the Springlock suit, there are 10 locks, and the mission is made clear. Keep them wound up for the whole night. Each of the
Fuck
locks will
that.
constantly be winding down, and if they're close to fully winding down, you get an alert telling you that you should probably start winding the locks up. It was like Scott said, hey, remember that frustrating mechanic from the second game where you had to keep the puppet wound regardless of night? How about we multiply that by 10? Wouldn't that be highly entertaining? As the night
No,
continues,
Scott,
your
it's
opponent
not.
for the night makes themselves known. These little critters are called mini-renas, and they only exist to crawl.
Alright, so somebody's explanation for Biddy Babs is backup dancers. What's your fucking excuse for mini arenas? What is that?
Inside the Springlock suits. Why? Oh god, my skin feels itchy seeing this! When they start crawling into the suit, you're supposed to shake them off, as any reasonable person would if they saw loads of small things crawling into their clothing. I am sorry for that mental image. Shaking them off, however, will cause the Springlock to loosen even more. And as per usual, losing the night will graciously award you with a... Towards the end of the night, the Springlocks start loosening up even quicker, and you need to develop strategies to beat the night, as winding them up to the tightest point isn't possible anymore, thanks to the mini-arenas crawling in. I found this night to be the most frustrating, as I've never really been a huge fan of the wind things up mechanic, and having to do that 10 times over, coupled with the fact that it gets ridiculously fast towards the end of the night, and any nudge of the mini-arenas climbing up could end your night, and you've got yourself a recipe for a whole lot of whining. Surviving the shift allows you to go home to enjoy even more television before your final night. I don't know if you've noticed, But compared to the previous games in the series, there's just so much to talk about with regards to the game itself, as it feels like it really tried to put the FNAF story into linear mode, because people were making theories and speculating about almost everything to do with the franchise at this point. The final night of the game has you go through most of the gameplay styles you've learned so far, as you begin the shift like you would on night 1, which is all well and good, but the technicians have decided that they wanted to put on their best Sayori cosplay, as checking for Ballora and Foxy will show something else on their respective stages. Immediately after, you also go through the whole song and dance of going through the auditorium again to reach parts and service, where you will finally come face to face with Circus Baby. From this point on, the game diverges into 2 separate endings depending on what you did throughout the game. Taking cues from FNAF 2, there's a chance that upon dying, you'll be sent into a mini game where you're playing as Circus Baby, and you're playing a platformer where you have to shoot kids with cupcakes until they're satisfied. A typical American situation, as they need not 1, but 2 cupcakes to satisfy their needs, and they'll change by turning completely red and singing to themselves. I do find it funny that the sprites change from a somewhat regular hairstyle to a brown brick on their head. It looks like someone took a shit on them. Anyway, stop! Enhance! If you were paying attention throughout the game and had a closer look at Circus Baby, you'll notice that in the game itself, Circus Baby's eyes are green, whereas in this minigame, her eyes are blue. This fact is extremely important to remember, especially with relation to this game's story. As I said before, this game plays like a typical platformer, but with several twists to distinguish it from the Marios, and the Crashes, and the Banjo-Kazooies, and the Conkers of the day. You get different cupcake types to shoot at the kids, starting with the standard cupcake where you have to shoot twice to satisfy the children, then a blue cupcake which shoots triple standard cupcakes, leading into the green cupcake, which is a super cupcake that instantly satisfies all the children and passes right through them. The game also expects you to do some parkour, as in a delightful design choice, Scott had the different layouts in the minigame not interact with each other and pan over to the next instead of continuously moving. This would indeed cause a lot of frustration if you aren't familiar with the layout of the minigame, with bottomless pits sometimes on the very next screen, giving you no reaction time before you end up dying. In order to beat the minigame, you're supposed to feed all of the kids and collect ice cream at the very end of the line, signaled by the massive signpost that just says goal. Except you're not supposed to do that. What you're actually supposed to do is bring the ice cream back all the way to the start to initiate a small cutscene. And before I get to that, can I just mention that this is probably one of the most frustrating parts of the entire game. Instead of playing through the minigame normally, you have to actually think of a strategy to feed all of the kids in one try. As in, another brilliant design choice, Scott made it so you can't do anything like switch cupcake type, meaning that any power-up you walk over will overwrite the last one you used, even if you had some cupcakes remaining, which will have you backtrack and go forward and backtrack again to make pixel-perfect jumps over an item you can't get, or else you'll fail the first assignment. And you have to do all of this, plus taking the ice cream all the way back to the start in less than a minute. It's so stupid! What should be a normal minigame that vaguely gives hints as to the lore of the franchise just turns into busy work that will take your sanity and really test your patience. Especially when you're 5 pixels from the goal. You literally have to think of ways to take shortcuts.
Oh my god. I forgot. Guys, how many was that? Hold on, we have to count.
And really test your patience, especially when you're 5 pixels from the goal.
No, it's not one. It's every. How many is that, Thab? How many is it? Hold on. Okay, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. 8? No, it's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Cheers. I'm gonna be here for a minute. Oh. Oh. At 3. Oh. Okay, hold on. I can do this. Hold on. I'm just gonna change the number before I forget about it. Ugh. No, I'm okay. I have, for the record, by the way, I will be completely safe. I ate plenty of food beforehand. I have water next to me. I am totally fine. I will be fine. That's 6. Oh! Okay, hold on. I need 2 more. I can do this. 2 more. Oh, God. Damn it. Alright, hold on. Oh, one more. I can do this. Shut up about the hour left of the video. If I get banned, okay. It's unironically over. No, it's not. Alright, one more. Hold on. Alright, that's 8. Fuck. I'm alright.
You literally have to think of ways to take shortcuts and skip time.
Fuck you, circus baby.
In order to, I mean, that would
Oh
make the
shit!
game ridiculous.
Oh my fucking god! Okay, wait. I just hit the I hit a number pad key. Fuck me, dude. Good night, Buggy. Sleep time. Fuck you. Where were we? Hold on. Alright, hold on. Wait.
The way to the start, the most frustrating part is select sister location time in order to reach the end in time. And Scott knew this because game. So after
there it is.
You literally have to think of ways to take shortcuts and skip time in order to reach the end in time. And Scott knew this because in the mobile version of Sister Location, you're given 20 extra seconds to complete the minigame. So after you go through hell and high water to get the ice cream to the beginning of the level, Circus Baby simply waits as a...
Hey, Sav. If you don't count this as fucking good promo for your video, I swear to God, dude, you better know I love you, you piece of shit.
Go shows up from out of nowhere to claim.
Oh, fuck, I hit my head on the desk and fucking
of the green
press the
eyes.
space
Also,
bar.
why is she walking so slow? It's just a harmless ice cream. What's it gonna do? Eat you? Come on, there's no problem here.
Thank you for my ears.
If you're confused, as
somebody
to what just
explain to
happened,
them.
you should have
I
taken
can't
notes
fucking
earlier
use
because
words.
yet another law dump is in order. Before each night begins, you get lines from William Afton's daughter, and she mentions wanting to go and see Circus Baby, much to the behest of Will apparently. And she pays the price for it, as you can see in this minigame. In night 3, there's
I have a
secret
drink
dialogue
water
entry
redeem
from
if
Circus
you want
Baby
me to
herself,
drink
where she
water.
basically tells the player what she did to the child. And it happened on her first day on the stage. Great engineering, lads, you did a good job. Completing the minigame successfully nets you a star on the main menu. And after doing that, you can finally get back into night 5 with the option to get 2 possible endings. God, this game is so stacked. Now you're face to face with Circus Baby, and if you look closely in the background, you can notice some tendrils moving behind her. But we'll get to that in a moment. What's important is that Circus Baby is broken, and us being tech support on the site at the time, we're supposed to fix her so she's working again. However, she's intentionally sabotaging her own suit for an unknown reason, and you get thrown into another gameplay mechanic where you're given a keypad.
Hey, hold on. Wait. Should stop by tonight in VR. Oh, dude, I'm fucking. We'll see. I'll think about it. If I can even get my VR on in the first place. By the way, Rams, if you're still here, Rams and Thab, you remember the night we played mini golf and I got fucking drunk? That's what I feel like right now.
Circus Baby will recite to you a random code that you're supposed to enter to obtain an item. You'd think that this would be extremely easy, and some smartasses definitely thought so. This game is
alright, I'll try and
get
get
the
a
same
VR
code each time. Scott made the VA recite all the numbers from 0 to 9, and the game randomly chooses an order for you so that no 2 playthroughs are the same. The keypad is also extremely tiny and very prone to human error, as if your mouse is just 1 pixel off, or you take 2 seconds too long to press a button, then you get jump scared. Wait, what?
God damn it! There was another one! Cheers!
This guy. How many animatronics are you planning on adding to this game, Scott? I've been on this game for so long, give me a goddamn break! Okay, I've calmed down now. Let's continue. This abomination goes by the name of Ennard. If you paid close attention to the game, you'd have probably noticed that there's a mask missing from the first control room in Night 5 when shit hits the fan. Ennard is basically an amalgamation of all the animatronics in this game so far in one big bad monster. And you can actually see him behind Circus Baby's body as you're doing your maintenance work on her in this night. After said maintenance, you're asked to go back through the Funtime Auditorium, and it's from this point that the game will now indirectly give you an option to go for the two different endings in the game. The real ending and the fake ending. For the sake of what I'm going to say later, I'm going to go over the real ending first. To get to this ending, Circus Baby wrestles your independence away from you and channels her inner Makima, as she tells you in which direction you're supposed to move and when you're supposed to stop. The game also tries to bait you into using the flash beacon in the pitch black auditorium, but you already know what happens if you do attempt to use it. Funnily enough, Circus Baby will tell you that it is Ballora following you through the Funtime Auditorium, but judging by the lack of her music in this area, as well as the fact that you're jump scared not by Ballora but by Ennard, you can safely come to the conclusion that the bitch is lying.
Why did you say that, bro? Why did you say that about her?
New room called the Scooping Room, and you're greeted by a lovely sight of all the animatronics completely and utterly annihilated. Ennard then shows up and basically calls you a total dunce for believing everything they said throughout the game. Yes, that's right. The entire game you weren't being talked to by Circus Baby, you were getting chatted up by Ennard in a different voice. You got catfished. The plan was to escape the facility, but unfortunately, because of how they look, the animatronics have had zero luck. Until you came around. You and your terrible career choices. And now they're going to use you as a vessel to finally escape Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. It's at this point that the story that Scott's trying to tell comes full circle and culminates in you getting scooped by the scooper. Except it's not! Because we have a whole other ending to go through. If you successfully completed Circus Baby's minigame from earlier, you can actually disobey Ennard's directions and become a rebel. As soon as you enter Funtime Auditorium, you can go over to the right, and all of a sudden you found yourself in a completely new room known as the private room. And finally, we got some classic Five Nights at Freddy's gameplay. It took what, 122 hours? But we are finally in an office and ready to start clicking around the place. And is it worth it?
No.
Yes, it is. This is probably the worst night I've played so far in any FNAF game. And that includes 3! The fun of being in an office instantly wears off within less than 30 seconds, as not only are you notified that you're going to be fired from your job for being there, you now have to directly face off against only Ennard, and this night takes inspiration from both FNAF 3 and FNAF 4 with the sprinkle of the first FNAF game. First off, you're only facing against
Stop putting food in your videos!
Paper, as it's less things to look at throughout the night, but Scott decided to make that one animatronic the most annoying to deal with overnight. As is custom for all the FNAF games, you have to survive until 6 AM, but for some reason, William Afton hired the same incompetent architects to build this entire complex, because the whole building runs on an 8-year-old BlackBerry battery. Not only do you have to worry about the power, but it runs out faster than the speed of light. How? I didn't even do anything to start the night off and I'm already at 80%. How am I supposed to survive this? The game tries to mitigate usage of the camera monitor by having you rely on sound to detect Ennard's whereabouts, similar to the mechanics displayed in FNAF 4. But this doesn't help one bit because it's almost entirely random where he's going to show up. And sometimes he will literally teleport into the room from a camera where you could have sworn you heard something, but it was the game screwing you over. There are no ways to lure Ennard away. He'll relentlessly attempt to find a way into the office, all the while trying to convince you to let him in the room. First using Circus Baby's voice, but then in yet another twist, he will start using William Afton's daughter's voice, giving you more backstory to the sacred text that's the FNAF lore. One of the lines in particular also clues you into exactly who you are in relation to all of this, as Ennard will say this. The implications of this show that the player character, known as Mike, may actually be an Afton. As is custom with FNAF, there are also Easter eggs that can be found in this level that also try and include the original games, and answer some pending questions the fans may have had about the story. In front of you are 3 monitors and a keypad, and pressing 1983 on the keypad as a joke will get you these images. Look familiar? For those in doubt about FNAF 4's relation to the wider story, the images imply that the massive house you play in the 4th game actually belongs to the Afton family, and the main character we play as in that game could also be related to Mike and William Afton. As the night progresses, the power starts to deplete a lot quicker, and you have to fend Ennard off on either side of the doors or the vents. It then becomes a game of serious luck, as if you run out of power, you have to pray that Ennard is nowhere near the room, as if he is, he has a chance of jump scaring you similar to Freddy in the first game. This game mode took me almost 4 whole hours to beat, from either the power running out or getting cut by RNG throughout the night. But at the end of it all, you finally survived the shift and watched the season finale of the telly show that's been showing this entire time. However, after completing the show, it turns out that Ennard has somehow followed you all the way home. The end. Wait, did I say the end? No, what I meant to say is that there's still another night! Night 6 is a custom night, meaning that you can change the difficulty levels of each and every one of the animatronics that are in Sister Location, including some new ones that we've never seen before. The reason why this night is so weird, however, is that this wasn't actually shipped with Sister Location. Scott decided that the game wasn't loaded enough and pushed this extra night as a free update to the game on December 1st, 2016.
Wanted to watch
Similar
TV,
to the first 2 games, this allowed you to set custom difficulties for each of the animatronics in question. And because of a lack of a phone guy or anyone really to tell you how to fend these animatronics off, Scott added tutorials on how to fend off each of the animatronics upon hovering your mouse over the images for each and every one. Now, the gameplay in question is similar to FNAF, where you have to keep tabs on all these animatronics and prevent them from getting inside your office. But now you also have to worry about oxygen, because there's not enough issues in this place. If you've enabled mini arenas, they all hang about the oxygen tank and start draining the oxygen from the room, forcing you to have to electrocute them to get them away. As well as this, Scott decides to turn up the frustration factor by 11 by having mini arenas and more start to block your view, with absolutely no way of preventing it or removing them from your screen. Gee, thanks for nothing! The game does, however, have a few restrictions, and the main one is the fact that you have to use the presets provided to you by Scott, and you have preset difficulties for each one. I don't want to talk about absolutely everything because of how long this game is taking to cover, but an important thing to note is the cutscene that occurs upon beating all of the presets on very hard mode.
I love
Each
this
of the
cutscene. This cutscene's so fucked up.
who is identified later as Mike or Michael Afton walking down the street like no one's business, or rather everyone, seeing as he seems to be the most popular person in the town at this moment in time.
This cutscene
Everyone's
is
waving
fucked
and
up.
happy to see him. Then as the cutscenes start to progress, he starts to decay more and more, and some of the townsfolk are starting to get weirded out, judging by the completely blank stares on every one of them. His body starts to change color as each cutscene passes, and more people start getting weirded out at the sight of a different colored person walking down the street, culminating in him turning entirely purple, looking really similar to a certain guy I mentioned earlier in the video, and vomiting Ennard out from inside of him, finally freeing the animatronics that made up Ennard to begin with. The very last cutscene of the game occurs immediately after and shows the burnt remains of Fazbear's Fright, the attraction you were playing in the 3rd game, and Michael Afton is the new narrator, telling William that he's freed her, probably referring to Ennard. After vowing that he will find William, the scene looks to be over, then all of a sudden, he's back! And finally, the game is over.
So true. Where am I?
What a wild ride, and we aren't even done with the franchise yet. Sister Location was released to a mixed reception, and I can tell you exactly why instantly. The game's too bloated. Just think about how many
Are
game
there any
mechanics and
more
plot points were
question
stuffed
marks?
into this
I
game
can't
after several other games in the
remember.
franchise
I
simply
forgot.
coasted along using ambiguity. It felt like after the weird critical and fan reception that FNAF World received, Scott wanted to get the franchise back on track and on a more linear path than the original game, which resulted in a whole new story we've never even heard of before now. Not to mention the amount of new game mechanics and information that's dumped at you in just one game. And it feels like in his quest to up the ante from the previous games in the franchise, he started to write himself into...
How many games are we able to go through? This is Location. And then is it just Pizza Sim? Yeah, it's
corner,
Pizza
as
Sim.
now he has a bunch of animatronics and human characters he needs to keep tabs on to advance the lore. It was at this point that a lot of people, myself included, didn't really pay too much attention to the story, as I said before. It seemed like Scott was obviously making things up as he went along, and if he could go back,
left in the bottle? Bro, it's a whole handle.
In the franchise to make things a little clearer for people. But I'm sure it's part of the fun to speculate on what the story of FNAF could possibly be. As for the game mechanics, the difficulty spike this game showed was immense, with some levels being so easy you could probably bash all of your fingers and still be able to complete it, to carpal tunnel simulators where the slightest bit of RNG could ruin your entire life. All in all, the effect this game had on the entire franchise was pretty immense, and the next game would prove to be pivotal for the series, as 1 year later, Scott would return to Five Nights at Freddy's with...
Oh my god, I just had a moment. I thought I was watching the Corpse Party video, and I thought it was gonna do the... You know what I'm talking about. I was like, what the fuck?
Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator was released on December 4th, 2017. This was the game that Scott made the unanimous decision to take everything established about the franchise so far with regards to gameplay, including the naming conventions, and throw it out of the window into lava. This game also decided to throw a comically large spanner in the franchise works, and became the first main...
Is that what a spanner? Do you call that a spanner? Is that a British thing? We call it a wrench.
Game in the Fnaf series to be released for a grand total of £0, which may weird a couple of people out, since I'm 99% sure people were convinced the Fnaf games were all free, but nope. They cost money. So as you can tell, this game really tried to set itself aside from the other mainline FNAF games, as Scott made it clear before the release of the game that the vibes in this one will be similar to FNAF World. People love tycoon games. That's what's in right now, making cities and
I bought
and
this game
stuff,
and I haven't
you're
fucking
gonna
played
love
it once.
Upon opening the game for the very first time, you're treated to a minimalist menu that has similar art style to the many death and post-night mini games you've been playing in the franchise thus far. And you're given two options: design a pizza or go to the pizzeria. Obviously, we can't go to the pizzeria without pizza. What do you think this is? A Ria? So we're tasked with making a pizza. Not just any old pizza, this is the pizza, as all you're given are a selection of toppings and you're supposed to add them to the pizza. There's no way to check for any allergy information or any scoring system or even compatibility with other toppings. You can add every single topping and you'll be absolutely fine. Every topping except olives though. We don't want to poison the children.
Yeah, olives are
so
fucking
with our brand
nasty.
new cheese frisbee, we can go to the pizzeria to begin the simulation and oh my god, we're actually playing frisbee with the pizza. Hang on a second, where's our toppings? The game
God damn it, you piece of shit. I was so happy to see Duke and then it was just fucking... Cheers. Hold on. I don't know if that counted as a full shot. I barely took any. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Oh, where's my mouse? I can't find my mouse. Sorry, hold on.
Lied to me.
Why isn't it? Hello? Capture the fucking... Oh no, I broke it. Guys, I broke it. I broke it. No, I broke it. How do I fix it? Why did it break? Hello? Hello? Why did it break? Fuck. Shit. Fuck. Oh, I fixed it. I don't know how I did that. Okay. Oh, rules are every time. Hold on, we'll go back in the video. Okay. Here's the rules. Every time.
We can go to the pizzeria to begin the simulation, and oh my god, we're actually playing frisbee with the pizza. Hang on a second. Where's our toppings?
Every time that fucking video plays, I have to take a shot.
The game lied to me! What was the point of even making the pizza if we're just going to use the same generic design? During the pizzeria simulation, the new mission is handed to us.
You're joking.
In a delightful test of our aim and hygiene, we're supposed to throw the pizza across the room to a group of hungry children until they disappear into the void. Each time you successfully murder a child with your pizza, you get rewarded for it.
Oh, side note, by the way, I mentioned I hate olives. I only like olives in this thing that we make called Impossible Taco Pie. Oh, I should make that for the cooking stream I owe you guys. That would be really fun, actually. But yeah, Impossible Taco Pie, we use all, like, sliced black olives for it. It's really good.
Guarantee you this would be an actual fast food restaurant worker's wet dream. After several rounds, however, your murder spree starts to get blocked by a version of yourself. But he's black! This bear seems to be blocking your attempts to feed the children into the void, and he follows your path, so you have to think of a way to cross him and break his ankles, allowing you to reach the kids. It's after this round that the game then realizes it's supposed to be a Five Nights at Freddy's game and channels its inner moniker. This game is not a simulator. I lied. I lied to all of you. You're actually playing LA Noire, but with animatronics instead of moderately human characters. You're introduced to a
fun fact for you. This reaction where he's like watching
playing LA Noire, but with animatronics instead of moderately.
The reaction he has of him laughing his ass off during this video is actually a real-time reaction that happened in the fucking mod voice chat. It was just him fucking laughing so hard this video.
Human characters. You're introduced to a brand new voice on a cassette tape similar to the phone guy we all know and love. We'll call him Cassette Man. Why do these names give me the biggest Chainsaw Man vibes? And you're face to face with what used to be Circus Baby, ready to begin gameplay style number 2. I'll elaborate on this later as this is just the opening cutscene, but Cassette Man will play several audio prompts with the intention of seeing whether the animatronics they found will respond to it. Since there's no such thing as peripheral vision, we have to look down at the sheet of paper asking us to document the results like we're watching a GCSE science experiment. At the end of the cutscene, the remains of Circus Baby interrupt Cassette Man and the game decides to switch from channeling their inner Monica to channeling their inner Yuri.
Begin audio prompt in 3,
2, 1.
It's a
deception! I lied to you all again. It's not a horror game. It's actually a business simulator. And there's a very familiar voice welcoming you to the game.
It's a new day. It's your time to shine.
Whoa, 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 whoa. The hell is wrong with you? The true bulk of the game is introduced right here, and Hand Unit offers you a tutorial as to what to do, complete with many conflicting art styles and the sarcastic gallows humor that's continued over from sister location. I actually like this opening cutscene as it's aesthetically similar to many job tutorial videos and infomercials that people would receive in this era on their first day on the job. And our job is pretty simple. We're a franchisor of Fazbear Entertainment Incorporated, and this is a massive corporation responsible for all of the locations we've played through so far in this video. So you can clearly tell that this corporation is really well run and there's absolutely no issues whatsoever with the management.
No.
That was sarcasm if you couldn't tell. After this information dump, we're finally given access to our brand new restaurant, and this is where the majority of the game happens. Good luck. To begin our expensive voyage into running such a large and established restaurant, especially in a volatile economy, we're blessed with a grand check of $100. How am I going to do anything with this? What the hell? We're given $100 and there are 4 different shops we can choose to spruce up our restaurant. Dumpster Diving Weekly does what it says on the tin. This is the kind of stuff you wouldn't even bother looking on eBay for. You'd find this stuff in a back alleyway with a text written on it in blood saying play with me or something. Stan's Budget Tech is a slight step up from before. This is basically going from eBay to Pound Stretcher. Some of the stuff is barely serviceable trash, but you start to get some useful items such as some arcade games. How about that? We'll return to the arcade in a second, but let's move on to the more prized items. Smiles and Servos Inc. has some more valuable items and animatronics you can add to your pizzeria, but you're going to have to cough up a pretty penny. And then finally, the big kahuna, the Rare Finds Auction. This is basically your Harrods, where you can buy yourself some super expensive goods that could and would cost your entire life savings. And then your right lung. Maybe a couple of feet pics. Since this is the first day and we're extremely broke, however, we're only able to buy things from the dumpster to kick things off. Each of the items have a couple of stats attached to them, and it's your job to make sure that your pizzeria has a nice, clean, and healthy environment for your potential customer. From atmosphere all the way down to bonus revenue.
I'm fucking
Some
white.
items are better than others, so obviously, this being a business tycoon game, you need to choose carefully and spend wisely so you can maximize profits, while keeping the entire area.
Guys, look, it looks like I'm wearing Thaf's hat, look. I'm drunk, I think. Guys, look, I'm wearing Thaf's hat.
You're safe. Yes, I said safe, as there's some items that have a hidden stat showing its liability risk, which is just telling you how likely it is to accidentally kill a child. After buying the items that you want and blowing all your money, the second part of the restaurant management begins, where now you can place your bought items somewhere in the area. We really haven't been dealt a good hand by our corporate overlords, as the land we've been given looks more like a dirt house than an actual restaurant. Not to worry, for a low price of $250, we can upgrade the entire room to a larger floor plan. Magnificent. But how do we make
Where's money? We just blew it all. I hear you ask. Well, on the top right corner of the screen, you are also given a sponsorship offer. Why, yes, you can live out your YouTuber fantasy by securing the bag and taking a sponsorship from Raid Shadow Legends. This will give you a lot of bread to help you add more things to the pizzeria. There's always a price to pay when accepting sponsorships, however, and the biggest one will happen when you finish the customization of the restaurant. Before you do that, there needs to be some entertainment products so your pizzeria is a little bit more than absolutely miserable. And you can start with a ball pit. Oh boy. Here we go. Adding entertainment products into the pizzeria also gives you an opportunity to play test them using the play tokens you're given at the beginning of your shift, which begins yet another gameplay style in which you're given short and snappy minigames that you can play to earn tokens and potentially more money if you do them perfectly. All of the games rely on quick decision making and even faster reaction times, and the ball pit minigame is the best example of what the game means by liability risk, as this game mode specifically has you control the small animatronic introduced in this game as Helpy. Wait, hang on a second. This ball pit's tiny, and you're asking me to jump all the way from there. Do you want me to perish? So you get given 5 attempts to jump in the pit, and god damn it, I missed. At least I get another attempt. I think he's dead. You don't need to worry too much because for an extra $50, you can add safety straps that will remove the risk rating from the item and make it slightly safer for the potential infants dive bombing into the pit. The game not only lets you become your favorite YouTuber by taking sponsorships, but it also lets you become your favorite video game corporation by adding microtransactions within the restaurant to maximize your profits. For some odd reason, you also get the option to add a coin slot to a ball pit. Wait, how's that gonna work? Completing any of the mini games provided to you nets you an increased Faz rating, and every 1,000 points gives you an additional $100 to work with to make further upgrades to your restaurant. Personally, I found this segment to be the most fun in the entire game, as it's such a wildly different vibe and gameplay style to the other Fnaf games. It felt a little nice to have a breath of fresh air and
I'm trying to
manage
fucking
the
focus
restaurant
on
instead of dealing
stream,
with
bro.
creepy
Sorry.
animatronics every night that are constantly heading to your location. So after finishing the tinkering with your restaurant, you can go home and deception! The restaurant management was just a front. Did you really think Scott would make a FNAF game and not have any monitor eyeballing segments? So with this section of the game, your tasks are extremely simple. Your restaurant is now officially open, and you've got to manage things around the building before you can officially end your shift. The office that you're in has definitely seen some better days and looks more like a straight-up prison cell, with the weird metal wall and the fact that no one in the FNAF universe has ever heard of a bin before, seeing as there's almost always just trash on the table. Scattered around the office are various drawings of the animatronics that are obviously there to set the mood and make you feel better and warm and fuzzy inside while doing the tasks. And to top things off, directly to the left and to the right of you are giant vents for some godforsaken reason. Who signed off on this? I just really shouldn't ask this anymore. Well, at least you can still honk Kelpie's nose. On the monitor itself, there are various tasks that we are assigned to complete the shift, and these can be done in any order. This monitor looks and feels like it's running from an Intel Atom processor, as Scott decides to bring back some prized mechanics from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, namely the agonizingly slow monitors. As slow as the monitors are, however, the technology within them is way ahead of its time, and we could really do with some of these features on this PC. Your mission starts off with ordering absolutely everything for your restaurant, from the cups to the pizza kits. No need to worry about banking information or anything of the sort because it's really just a one-click purchase. It may happen that during your purchases and tasks, your PC might suddenly be infected by a virus. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's your sponsorship that you unwittingly took to try and make more money. Throughout this section of the game, sponsorships can and will show up on your PC screen at any point and completely stop what you're doing, forcing you to have to watch the advertisement and or skip it to continue. If that sounds extremely familiar, then you're obviously not thinking straight. After ordering your supplies, you can also print some advertising for your restaurant, and it's almost as if we...
So chat, I have YouTube Premium, and I think he put an ad break there. I might be a liar. I have YouTube Premium, so I don't get ads, period. But I think he put an ad break there just to fuck with people.
Use HP to print our stuff because it's so bloody loud! Shut the f*** up! Now that your eardrums are lost, it's time for the most fun part of the job. Yes, that's right. Clicking more buttons on your monitor to do things like unclog the toilets.
There should be an ad break there, okay. Well, I have YouTube Premium, so I won't get it, but yeah.
Why does it take so long to unclog the toilets?
I don't know.
What type of monster shits did these children take?
Maybe I do.
Anyways, if you are smart enough to save some money and not blow it during the restaurant management segment, which a lot of people ended up doing, you can use the equipment tab to try and make your task a little bit easier by purchasing better versions of your current equipment. Why wasn't this the very first thing that we can upgrade? I do find it funny that regardless of how many upgrades you give the restaurant, the office never changes. It's always the same hot, sweaty, claustrophobic prison box the entire way through the game. The reason why I say hot is down to the fact that on the bottom right corner of the screen, we're given a room temperature statistic. Since this PC also apparently rocks an FX 6300 processor, the room is also liable to getting a little bit sticky, and the air conditioning is there to mitigate the sweatiness of the room. But what this does mean is a lot of noise is generated, and this is a very bad thing a little later in the game. Notice how I haven't talked about the giant elephant in the room. You're probably wondering, where are the animatronics? And this is what the very next part of the game is all about. At the end of every shift, you complete all the tasks and log off the PC, only to be taken to the very next screen, and you're back in LA Noire mode, inside an investigation room facing an animatronic that Cassette Man has found in the street beforehand. You're given an option to either throw it back in the street or attempt to salvage it for use in your restaurant, you being the little cheapskate that you are. If you attempt to salvage the animatronic, you're given tools in front of you to assist your journey, mainly a shock tool and a piece of paper. And once again, similar to the start of the game, you have to listen for a bunch of sounds and see whether the animatronic responds to it or not, by documenting the results immediately after. From this day onwards though, there's a big twist to the tale, and that is the new gameplay style that's introduced as part of this mode. Seeing as you're apparently unable to look at a piece of paper and the animatronic at the same time, the paper covers your entire vision. While your eyes are focused on the paper, there is a chance that the animatronic you're interrogating moves just a tiny bit, and I really do mean a tiny bit. This game mode requires you to pay very close attention to the behavior and the facial expressions of the animatronic, as even the slightest subtleties can prove fatal. It's just like ye old creepypastas from all those years ago. If the animatronic moves just a little bit or is getting a little too close for comfort, you're given full authority to doubt. Electrocute the bitch. But you can't go all Palpatine and shock them until they're brain dead, because there's also a salvage value in the bottom right corner of the screen. This is how much money you'd receive from salvaging the animatronic in question, and you're given just 3 shocks of freedom before any further shock would damage them, devaluing the very thing you're trying to make money from. It's in your best interest not to be overzealous with your shocks, because the animatronic value can range from $500 to $5,000. Good God, what the hell? Once you've
Rules
survived all the
unclear,
audio
8
prompts,
paper.
your shift is officially over.
Fun fact, pink lemonade, I used to eat construction paper. That might explain a lot, honestly.
And you can now count the money you make
Might
throughout the day.
explain a
Yes,
lot.
this game is still a business simulator at the end of the day. Your summary is essentially just the consequences of your financial decisions, and whether you'll have to pay for what you did in the restaurant design segment of the day. Whether you added more money-making strategies or not is integral to seeing how much revenue you make. And at the end of the summary, there's an option for lawsuits. If your restaurant had only a smidgen of risk factor from the equipment you bought, you're in for a load of trouble as the might of the American justice system strikes down on you. The next gameplay style is pretty short, but as a business, you have to read the lawsuits and choose whether to fight them or settle. You definitely would get a kick out of some of the text outlined in the lawsuits from the Parent Union Against Unsafe Atrocities and Mechanical Abominations, also known as Puauama, detailing heinous accidents such as a child falling from a ride, standing up and falling down again. And the staff taking 30 minutes to even give a shit. Honestly, good on the staff members. They're probably not getting paid enough for this. Wait, but we're the ones supposed to be paying them. If you don't have enough to settle or fight the lawsuit, then the game is over, accompanied by... And because we're broke, that means the game is over, and we've officially gotten ourselves the Certificate of Bankruptcy. This is one of many certificates you can get, each of them being endings for the game. But there are only 2 endings that I really want to cover in this section of the video, as they're arguably the most important for the entire franchise. Before we skip over to the endings, let's move on to the next couple of days and talk about some of the changes to the gameplay styles you get.
There, like,
For the rest of the week,
lawsuit
the gameplay in the
ending?
restaurant management segment remains
Or
the
something?
same. You buy items
Exactly
that are
what
relevant
told
to
me
the
about it
well-being
once.
and the monetary
I
value
can't
of your
remember.
restaurant and configure them to maximize profits. There are some things that I should probably mention though before continuing, and it's mainly some of the extra messages that you're given with some items that you can purchase in the stores. In order to house some of the animatronics in your restaurant, you need a stage to put them on, and there's a warning that should you purchase a large object in such a terrible condition, there's a chance that there could be something undesirable hiding inside. The price of the item will normally reflect this by having it heavily marked down from the usual price, and you have to weigh up the options and assess whether or not it's worth getting an item cheaper and running the risk of an animatronic hiding inside it, which will become relevant at the tail end of your shift. Let's move back a little further though to the forms of entertainment you can provide in your restaurant. Some of the entertainment forms include arcades and playable mini games that children could potentially play when they go to your restaurant. Out of all the mini games you can playtest, however, there are 3 extremely important mini games that you must play to understand the inner machinations of this game's universe. Yes, that's right. As a mainline Fnaf game, this has some hidden story beats and lore within its confines, and 3 minigames are of utmost importance to reach them. The first one is called Fruity Maze. On the exterior, it looks like a regular old minigame, nothing too shabby about it. You just have to go through a maze and collect all the fruit with the assistance of different power-ups that help you. Each time you collect a certain amount of fruits, your timer gets extended, accompanied by the reflection of someone who isn't you playing the game. Who the hell is she? When you complete the game once,
you're a piece of shit. Cheers. Ooh, it's 19. You're a piece of shit.
Once you can actually go back to replay the game to see if you can get a faster time. Looks like we're collecting dogs with ketchup on them now. How pleasant. Now you'll notice that if the timer gets extended, you get a reflection of this girl again.
You signed up for it. You're so right.
I mean, I don't see much of an issue. It's just flavored hot dog. The game plays
I want a hot dog.
After beating the game for the second time, going for a third attempt will essentially destroy the game and turn it into a creepypasta. Your character now trails blood, everything is glitchy, and if you look really closely behind the girl, who's now crying, there seems to be a familiar character really intent on watching you play the game till the timer runs out. And when it does, you get this exchange. It isn't exactly known who the girl is officially, but I need you all to keep this question in your mind because I'm probably going to say something that'll piss you off in about 6 minutes. Let's move on to the next mini game. Midnight Motorist Arcade is the second game, and on paper, it's a simple racing game. Just control a pink race car and avoid all the
I love the music from Midnight Motorist.
The story clues in this specific game mode do require you to do a little bit of
it's just my drawing
cheating to get, however. There's a special segment at the bottom of the screen, and hugging the border at the bottom will allow you to clip through, which changes the innocent racing game to a much darker exploration game, where you have an option to look around and find several locations. Okay, just 2 locations. The first one being a random location just named Jurors, and the second one being a house. Getting out of the car, and it looks like we're trying our hardest to cosplay as a naked Simpson. We eventually find our way into a room in our own house, and after failing to breach the main door, we go around outside, only to discover that the window has been shattered and whoever was in that room has escaped. And they apparently will be sorry when they get back. Again, it hasn't officially been revealed who the hell all this was about at all, but it's yet another fuel to the fire that is speculation. The third and final minigame actually isn't from any arcade machine you can buy. Instead, you have to buy an animatronic to access this one. What a twist! After dropping $12,500 of your hard-earned money on the security puppet, you can actually test it by playing a minigame. In the game, your job is to stop specific children types from exiting the building, namely ones with a green bracelet. We just really hate the color green. You will notice though that said green child never appears the first and second times you play the game. And you may think to yourself, the game just bamboozled me. Can't have that. But that's where you're slightly mistaken, as the green child does exist and is already outside the building, you total fucking failure. Oh wait, we're not allowed to actually play because someone has sabotaged the puppet. We free ourselves from the current predicament and crawl outside, but since we're not exactly waterproof, the rain damages our electronics before we can reach the child we're supposed to protect, and now they're dead. Yep, they just died, and since we're in the rain, we died as well, and the game is over. Now I've kind of summarized the three most important mini-games in Pizzeria
Everybody
Simulator.
dead,
You're all
the
wondering,
end.
how does this have anything to do with the restaurant tycoon nature of the game? I thought this wasn't supposed to have a story. Well, I thought Freddo's would be 5p again. We can't all win. I know I promised not to go too much into the lore, but this is the part of the game that may mug a few of you off. This game was made to somewhat end the story of Five Nights at Freddy's. Completely. After Sister Location dumped a ton of story and lore into the franchise, Pizzeria Simulator was made
less
with
than
the intent
15
to
minutes,
tie
we
all
can
the
do
loose
it.
ends that the story had and serve as the grand finale of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. You can tell as well, so much lore was shoved front and center that it really feels like Scott wanted to make a conclusion to the franchise, but didn't have the means to do it until Sister Location rolled around. We'll get to the endings in a bit, but first, let's go over one of the biggest issues I have with the lore dumping in the game. The supplementary material. If we go all the way back to earlier in the video during Fnaf 2, there are several mini-games you can get upon dying that clue you in on the lore behind the franchise. One of them's a mini-game in which you're supposed to take
really
cake to
drunk.
each of the children
Fuck
on
you,
screen,
Arsene.
but there's another bold child outside the boundary borders, crying to themselves over not getting any of the cake and being trapped. Soon after, a purple car arrives and the purple guy exits the car. Okay, he just kills the child. I thought it was going to do something worse. While the minigame is playing, I mentioned before that you can hear some random guy burping letters of the alphabet. If you went back to check the letters in question, you'll be able to spell out the words save him. Finally, when the minigame is over, you get another jump scare and sent back to the menu. But note that it's only the puppet that jump scares you in this minigame, and no other animatronic. Link this back to Pizzeria Simulator, and it seems like the same events happened here. The security puppet minigame is just a slightly more RTX version of events, even down to giving the character in question a fade and changing her gender.
Fuck you,
This game kind of
Arsene.
stretches the question of what is canon, because Fruity Maze is also guilty of being extremely ambiguous as to whether things are canon or not. So this game is basically trying to end the lore by properly explaining what happened to the kids that died and haunted the animatronic shells from the first game and onwards. But what it fails to do is make things coherent enough to understand who is what from just the games. Because you're supposed to read the books as well! In the first game, there are newspaper clippings that reference missing children, which obviously refers to the Spring Trap, Spring Bunny, Purple Guy, William Afton, whatever the hell incident. What they fail to give the audience is the names of said children who were murdered in the first place. The girl in the reflection of Fruity Maze is assumed to be one of the children that were murdered in the original incident, as the means in which Spring Bunny lures her away are very similar to the strategy used in the mini-games in the third game.
So true.
Are you with me so far? Officially, we're not given the
So
name of the
true,
girl
Zach.
playing
Tell
Fruity
us
Maze,
more.
except we were because it's name dropped. In another book! The Freddy Files was a guidebook detailing some information about the Fnaf games and their mechanics, written by Scott and released in 2019. And in that book, he mentions that the girl playing the Fruity Maze is named Susie. Alright, that's understandable, fair enough. But then it gets confusing because in another book series named Fazbear Frights, which are a couple of anthology horror stories set around the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, it's shown that Susie's dead spirit is inside Chica. Don't even get me started about the content on Fazbear Frights. You really don't want to know. Are the books canon or not? Trust me, it gets so much worse from here. Let's return back to the game and I'll show you why. Now, if an animatronic
Wow.
was hiding in any of the things you added to
Scott's,
spice up your restaurant,
like,
or you salvage them,
dumb.
this changes the office part of the game, as now you need to prevent the animatronics from reaching your location through the giant vent in your room. How do you do this? Luckily for you, this game is much easier than the others as there's no difference in mechanics between animatronics. Taking after Fnaf 3,
So
you're simply
true,
supposed to lure
drunk
them away from
puppy.
your current
Fuck
location
you,
by
I'm
playing
not
audio
drunk.
cues
I'm
in rooms
fine.
that are as far away from you as possible, which will lead them there. You can track their movement by using the motion tracker, and you can stop them from getting inside your room by flashing your light down the vent. However, any slight sound that's made from anywhere in your office and those animatronics are on you quicker than you can say anti-disestablishmentarian.
That's me.
Oh, now the animatronics have voice lines upon killing you? For what purpose? Tilting me when I get bullshit about
Caden
RNG.
would be so
Anyways, now
proud
you
of
have
you
to do
for
the same job
what?
you've always done. And remember how I mentioned how loud each of the tasks are? All of these sounds make you bait for any rogue animatronic to come crawling in the vents and done your dance, innit? So you better not have accepted those sponsorships, or else you're gonna have a whale of a time reopening the game after your many jump scares. You can prevent any noise from getting into your room, and this is done by turning off your fans and your PC itself. However, this poses two issues. Eins, turning the PC off may prevent noise, but it also prevents you from leaving the office and getting your task done. And Zwei, turning the fans off causes the temperature of your already sweaty room to get even sweatier and increase. If you let the temperature get all the way up to over 120 degrees, you automatically score a game over from heat stroke. With all that being said, the rest of the week now revolves around making sure you salvage the animatronics and surviving each of the office shifts with them. If the animatronics are already in your restaurant, the salvaging section becomes much easier, as they leave a pleasant message telling you there's no need to go through with playing the LA Noire style. The importance of this is displayed in the main ending of the game, which we can finally get to now. Actually, there's one more thing. There is one more important item that you can buy to get yourself a special ending in the game that not many people may know about if they played through the game for the first time. If you go to the Rare Finds auction and find this horrifying abomination, you can add it to your restaurant. This animatronic is known simply as Egg Baby, and the job of this animatronic is to be a data archive for your restaurant and the entire franchise as a whole. This comes into play in the office section of the game, as you can get an ending just from doing something as simple as pressing the blue button at the bottom of the screen. If you do that, you're greeted with a blueprint showing some schematics for inventions created by William Afton, complete with some extra information about the lore spoken by Cassette Man. It's implied that in this lore dump, this man co-founded Fazbear Entertainment with Willie Afton, and Afton decided to use his influence to lure a bunch of kids back into the restaurant and murder them. This is where things get even more confusing, as the curse of Scott not knowing what the hell he's doing comes into play. The file name of the audio recording is referred to as HRY223, which hints at the name of its co-founder. But apart from that, there's absolutely no other clue as to the identity of this Cassette Man and what he has to do with the story. Unless you read the books! Because in the Silver Eyes, his name's revealed as Henry Emily. Are the books canon or not? It gets even better, as the dead child in the Security Puppets minigame is actually his daughter. And Henry has been trying to put a stop to William's dastardly antics since the very first iteration of Fazbear Entertainment's restaurants, which just so happened to be the restaurant in the 4th FNAF game. So his plan was to lure all the animatronics with some of the dead spirits still attached, including William's, into your restaurant, which is why he really wanted you to salvage all of the animatronics he found. He managed to get a job as an instructor similar to Phone Guy to tell you, the restaurant owner, how to do all this, and his plan would come to a head in the final day of your work week. And now we can come to the moment you've all been waiting for.
What the hell does any of this
mean? The ending is one of the most talked about and most iconic parts of the entire franchise, as the explosion of the
ending
lore,
of
the
this
story
is
beats,
fire,
and Scott's attempts to tie everything together to the games and the books, as much as Scott doesn't want to admit they're canon, reach their conclusion here. At the end of the final shift, the remains of Circus Baby attempt to put you through yet another debate. She explains that she wants to make her father proud with what you as the player have done. However, this turns out to be yet another debate, as Cassette Man interrupts Circus Baby and begins admittedly one of the hardest monologues in a horror game. Like Jesus Christ, this is coming from a Five Nights at Freddy's game. The hell? Anyway, the general gist of the monologue is that Henry actually constructed this entire restaurant with the intention of trapping all the animatronics and souls within. And the next step of his master plan is to burn it all down. With no survivors. You can see that the plan is working, as the temperature of the office starts to increase to levels that in regular gameplay you would pass out on. This is now where Scott attempts to tie all of the lore in together. There were clues in the previous game, but it's now officially revealed that the soul of Elizabeth Afton, who is William's daughter, got trapped within Circus Baby, and by burning down the restaurant, Henry can finally free all of the lost souls killed by Afton in the restaurant by destroying them, himself, William, and you. And trust me, some of the lines that he says in this monologue do go a little hard.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
With the restaurant burnt down and all of the animatronics destroyed, the souls are finally free from what is basically Afton's curse. And Afton has finally got what was coming to him. Getting to this point nets you the completion ending. And you can tell from how thorough this ending went through with tying up all the possible loose ends in the franchise that Scott really intended this to be the final mainline game in the entire franchise. Upon releasing this game, it was clear that Scott seemingly had no intention of continuing the story past this point, as everything reached a logical conclusion at the end of Pizzeria Simulator. What was supposed to be a simple business management game had so many webs and hidden secrets that it stood on its own as a solid conclusion to an iconic horror franchise. And this was released for free. It kind of speaks volumes that a game like this, with content like this is
gameplay bug. You didn't be a fuck you. I did it. We did it. I did it. I win.
Scott
fuck
really wanted to end the story and
Suck
stop the
balls.
millions of questions flooding in about who did what and where are XYZ characters. And it really shows us the multitude of storylines and lore kind of reached its head with this game and sister location. The franchise got steered from games that have small secrets linking them with one another to a spider's web of contradictions to a linear story that branched things out and provided people with some closure. After replaying all the games up until this point, I used to think that this franchise really would have done well with ending with the third or fourth game, but I can now see that Pizzeria Simulator really stands on its own as a concrete ending, and Scott really set out to make this the definitive ending as he decided to develop one more custom night for the franchise, simply titled Ultimate Custom Night. Was released on June 27th, 2018, and the initial plan for the game was for it to be a DLC to Pizzeria Simulator, similar to how the Custom Night was added in future updates to sister location. However, due to the undertaking of such a task, Scott decided to spin it off into its own game. There's not really much else to talk about with regards to the gameplay, so I'll keep this one brief for you guys. UCN works similar to all the other custom nights in the Fnaf franchise, but this time you have an option to choose pretty much every single animatronic that Scott has ever made so far, along with a difficulty level. All of them have vastly different mechanics, and this game's pretty much the ultimate test of your reflexes and micromanagement skills, because holy hell, there's a lot to take in when you first load into the game. First things first, there are 6 possible ways that the animatronics can enter the room, and you really need to pay attention to all of this when you try and go for some of the harder challenges in the game. The office contains random bits and pieces from all the Fnaf games up until now, and you can actually customize the skin of the office based on whether you prefer something standard or something a little more exotic. The mission of the game is simple: survive until 6 AM, but this time you're given some help in that there's now a snazzy new timer on the top right corner of the screen, so you don't have to worry about how long it takes to get to the next hour. This being the culmination of all the Fnaf games up to this point, Scott brings in absolutely every animatronic and character he's made so far into this game, with a grand total of 50 animatronics you may have to keep tabs on at any time, and all of them have different mechanics that will also confuse you should you enable them all for the ultimate final challenge, which I'll talk about in a second. All the mechanics from all the Fnaf games are brought into the mix, such as the power management from the first game, the Freddy mask from the second game, the god-awful PC from the third game and onwards, needing to sound check on each end from the fourth game, and the whatever these mechanics were from whatever these games were, because of the amount of animatronics you have to keep tabs on and the amount of work that Scott needed to do to accommodate for them all, this game isn't really scary. You know, I haven't actually properly mentioned it, but the scare factor of the franchise is kind of diminished in the past couple of games. We've gone from a straight up terrifying experience to goofy fun times with everyone's favorite robots, and this is highlighted in UCN with the many jump scares you get as a result for being a terrible gamer. Most of them are lame, but I really don't blame Scott. Imagine having to animate 50 custom jump scares for absolutely every animatronic in the game. I wouldn't even bother. Speaking of the scare factor, Scott finally acknowledges the one thing that he was avoiding since the second Fnaf game: the animatronic designs, especially Toy Chica. While playing the game, you can collect things like Faz coins and earn points based on what you do in the game. You can spend these microtransactions on spicing up your office, but you can also reach certain milestones that will give you some tongue-in-cheek cutscenes, one of them being Bear of Vengeance, featuring anime counterparts of Freddy, Foxy, and Mangle in a samurai show environment complete with the token Corthan comedy seal of approval. And the second one is a dating anime show featuring Toy Chica. Wait, stop! There are multiple short episodes in the show, and they all involve Toy Chica talking about a previous crush she had that didn't go well, and her plans to try and make things work with her next one. The joke is that her crushes are all murdered. Yeah, this absolutely proves that Scott knew exactly what he was doing when he made Toy Chica. There ain't no way. Apart from that, there isn't much to say about UCN, seeing as it's essentially an extended DLC to Pizzeria Simulator. But as per usual, Scott decided to shove one more challenge in the game as a final test of your micromanagement skills, and that is 50-20 mode, or 20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20-20. I can't be bothered. I truly have no idea how people manage to beat this mode, but this mode requires your utmost concentration and knowledge of every single animatronic's abilities and mechanics in order for you to survive the night. And I forgot to mention one of the animatronics who goes by the name of Dee Dee. She shows up to absolutely ruin your night. If she pops up, she will enable an animatronic or a setback that you didn't set yourself before starting the night, meaning you're now at the mercy of playing a night with an animatronic you didn't enable, or worse. You can repel her with items purchased using your fast coins, but there really isn't a point in doing this in 50-20 mode. With everything I've said so far about the game, you're probably thinking that Scott finally made a game that's impossible to beat. I mean, he thought the original 20-20-20-20 mode in the first Fnaf game was impossible till Mark beat it. So surely with 46 more animatronics and 1,000,001 extra mechanics, some of which are dictated by RNG, this difficulty is completely impossible, right? Enter Dorko, a Fnaf YouTuber who took it upon himself to complete the ultimate challenge, and you know what? I'll just let the clip speak for itself.
We love you, Doggo.
The game's mechanics have been dissected so thoroughly that there are also bots programmed to play through the mode, which I find absolutely crazy. But enough of me gushing about the wonders of programming. It's now time to end this era. Say what you will about the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, but there can be no denying the effect it's had on the horror industry. At the end of it all, it feels bittersweet, you know? The franchise had its ups and downs, but the influence of its mechanics really brought a spark in horror games that hasn't been seen since, for better and for worse. It's kind of crazy how Scott Cawthon managed to turn his life around. From a string of mid-tier flops, his final attempt at game development managed to kickstart several careers and reignite hope that horror games can afford to try something new again. And with the solid conclusion that Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night posed, the franchise finally laid to rest. Wait, there's still more? No.
Woo! We made it to the end of the video.
I thought it was over. This isn't fair. I'm not taking that. How do you even continue from this point? It's ridiculous. I can't do this, man. I can't do this, man. I can't do this. I spent days on this. I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered.
We did it. We made it to the end, boys. Ba 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 da ba da. Ba 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 da. Ba 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 da. I'm still confused as to what the hell that outro was. It's a joke. He's supposed to be it's because he's going into the second part of the FNAF video. It's not a joke. It doesn't end here. It doesn't end here. It ends. There's another part. Or well, I'm bad with jokes. Check DMs. Okay, honey. I will watch that later, sweetheart. I'm not watching that on stream.
Well, that took a whole lot longer than I expected. I just wanted to thank you guys for watching this video if you made it this far. I'm going a little off script here, but
no, fuck you, Dad. Shut up, stop hugging. No, fuck you. I'm just here to see myself in the
Twitch or something.
Wait. Yeah, there I am. My name's in the credits. It's all I care about. No, I'm kidding. I love Taf's little spiel at the end. I love you, buddy. But we made it! No more question marks! Yeah, Alistair was in there too, I guess. Sure, whatever. I'm just kidding. Yeah. We did it! I love you, buddy! This video is great. It's one of my favorites you've ever done, right next to the corpse party video, my man. I can't wait for part 2. I'm so glad I got to help you. I dropped something. It's fine. We're good. You put that fucking question mark video in there 19 times! Why would you do that to me, dude? Here, let's swap over here. Why would you do that to me? Thank you for the pets. I forgot I'm piss yellow because Deku made me piss yellow. Why would you do that to me? Pricey wanted... Was it Pricey? I think Pricey wanted me to fucking include... That was a brick. Pricey wanted me to include every time you use a KSI bit, and I was like, do you want me to die? So, congratulations everybody, we did it. It only took 19 shots in 3 hours, but here we are. I'm trying to type in twitch.tv. Is anybody live right now? And I'm fucking like... Wait, Kai's... When did Kai get unbanned? Hold on, chat, does anybody... When did Kai Sent get unbanned? When did that happen? Or Kai Sanat. I can never say his name right. When did Kai get unbanned? Wasn't he banned? Did he get unbanned ages ago? Am I just a fucking idiot? Okay. Actually, one of my good buddies is live. I wish I would stop doing that. One of my good buddies is live. Do you guys want to go say hi to one of my good buddies? It's only a week, man. I swear to God, I thought it was longer than that. Whatever. We're gonna go raid my buddy Shazariz. He's playing Splatoon because he doesn't fucking play any other games, to be honest, at this point. But he's my little lemur buddy that I love very dearly, and I would appreciate if you gave him some love. Thank you guys for dealing with me being fucking wasted. I don't know if I will get in VR, but I am dying. One last cheers for the road, boys. Everybody in chat, if you're drinking with me, cheers. Fuck. Woo! We did it! I should do more drunk streams. This was fun. Cheers. Alright, everybody. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for everything. You guys are incredible. You do. Every time I come on stream, you're wonderful. And, you know, there was a lot running through my mind recently about quitting and shit. And I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, honestly. Now that I'm drunk, I'm kind of like, fucking little. Ironically, I have a bit of a clearer head about it all. But, I'm not quitting. What the fuck's wrong with me? I'm fucking stupid, dude. Alrighty, boys. Thanks for coming by. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody!